Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Monday, November 17th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ ORIONNWSF or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Kickoff is going to be here in roughly 5 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for some Monday Night Football. Happy Monday, everyone. On the left, a underrated quarterback here in 2025, Dak Prescott, and on the right, a guy that's got an endless motor, one of my favorite players on defense to watch on any team, Max Crosby. Now, the Cowboys are 3-5-1, 1-4 on the road. The Las Vegas Raiders are 2-7, 1-3 at home. But again, the Cowboys are favored by 3.5. But again, with the defenses, being a little bit suspect, as well as the offenses in this particular matchup, you might actually end up getting this to be somewhat entertaining matchup. Hopefully we get this game into the 20s. I'm really hoping that we can get like maybe a 24-20 kind of final. And again, as long as we can get at least one team in the 20s, that would be great. But if we can get both, obviously it could be kind of a back and forth, matchup. We'll have to kind of see how each team does on third down as well. Dak Prescott going against Geno Smith. But again, a lot of the recent, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night games have kind of underwhelmed. Like obviously the Eagles and the Lions are two really, really good teams, but they probably would have been smarter, playing the Buccaneers and the Bills on Sunday night for everyone to see. If you want to be able to see Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield go at it, hindsight is 2020. But again, that was really the main matchup, over the weekend that was very back and forth. And sometimes you're going to end up having that back and forth Buccaneers-Bills matchup with Baker and Josh Allen, giving touchdowns to the other team on a regular basis, or you end up getting two teams like the Eagles and Lions where we know they're playoff teams, but the offenses don't really step up to maybe our standard, and it ends up being a little bit lower scoring than we anticipated, and maybe a little bit disappointed, with some of these like really good matchups. And again, I think that's something that we've maybe noticed within the last month and a half or 2 months. It feels like the first couple months of the season, we were scoring more points and the games were a little bit more exciting. I'm a defensive fan through and through, but I don't want to watch a football game, end 6-3, or 9-6. I want to be able to see some scoring on top of great defense. And I feel like lately, within the last maybe month and a half, not only prime time games, but also just games in general, I feel like scoring is down. Offenses are struggling, and obviously certain defenses are, showing how good they really are, and defense wins games, defense wins championships. But it just feels like even a lot of the, quote unquote superstar must-see TV matchups haven't really lived up to our expectations as fans. And I know I'm not the only one that kind of feels that way. And again, if you're a Cowboy fan, you're excited. If you're a Raider fan, you're excited. But if you're an outsider looking in, this may, not be a matchup that really piques your interest, regardless if you like the Cowboys or not, like the Raiders or not. But with that being said, with Dak and Geno, it hasn't been what they thought, 2025 was going to be. But maybe we can actually get a decent football game in the 20s, 24-20, 27-23, something of that nature. Hopefully, we can end up seeing a little bit of offense by Geno and Ashton Genty, and a little bit of offense from Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and company as well. Kickoff is going to be here in roughly a minute, and I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. We're going to be shooting for 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. So I know, obviously, these aren't going to be everyone's, favorite teams to watch, but considering what we saw yesterday with the Eagles and Lions, it can only get better, you would assume, from here moving forward. And again, Cowboys and Raiders aren't really, known for explosive offenses in 2025, but you have to feel something special could happen today. Maybe we get a pick six. Maybe we get a fumble for a touchdown. Maybe we get a punt block for a touchdown. But whatever, way the points come, I'm just hoping that we're entertained, because again, I feel like the first couple of months were really entertaining, on the NFL side. But within the last month and a half, there has been some exciting games like the Buccaneers, losing obviously to the Bills, but going at it back and forth. I feel that was probably the most exciting game. But, based on that game, right, the Chiefs and the Broncos, but you kind of felt that they weren't going to score a lot of points in that game anyways. Seahawks and Rams, good defense. You knew you weren't going to get a whole lot of points there as well. And then Eagles, Lions. So it's like, you had 4 must-see TV, type of games, but you really ended up, coming down to maybe 1 or 2 of those that were really like worthwhile to watch, from beginning to end. And I think, Bucks and Bills would be at the top. Seahawks and Rams was entertaining, even though Darnold obviously had one of his worst games in his career. But normally when you end up having 4 picks, you end up losing by 20 or more, and they only lost by a couple. So we obviously know the Hawks are still a playoff team. Same thing with the Rams. The Rams might be the best team in the NFC, top to bottom. Especially the way that Matthew Stafford has been playing in that defense with Jared Verse. Eagles are the champs from last year, so you never can doubt them. But after those 2, it feels like everyone else is kind of on the same level, right? You got the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Bears, and then obviously a few other teams on the outside looking in, but it feels like all of those teams are kind of on the same level. And then the Rams and the Eagles are at the very top. And then on the flip side, on the AFC, obviously we know the Broncos are the best team in the NFL record-wise, best defense. Bo Nix obviously is going to be at times, running in mud, it feels like. But again, they've started to get a little bit better as of late as the Raiders kick off to the Cowboys. Little bobbled snap. And then obviously we know how great that the Colts and the Patriots have been in 2025, a big surprise. And then you got teams that normally are great in the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. And you're probably going to get 2 out of those 3 teams that will make the playoffs, the Bills and the Ravens. But will the Chiefs end up missing the playoffs? It kind of feels like it's trending that way. Nice kickoff there. 17-yard return. And shout out to Josh Naylor for getting that deal done. Yeah, and again, he could have gotten paid 5 years, $100 million, but took $7-8 million less, and maybe we can use that money towards Polo. Handoff up the middle, and Javonte Williams runs over to that left side for 2 yards. Devin White, the former Buccaneer, with the tackle. 2nd down and 8 at the Dallas 28. Yeah, definitely the Bears are the surprise team at this point in the NFC, and then Colts, Patriots are the surprise in the AFC. And again, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. And it's not probably likely you're going to get Packers, Lions, and Bears all in the playoffs, but you never know. Sometimes you will have 3 teams in the division, but it's pretty rare. Handoff up the middle by Javonte Williams. 4-yard run. Devin White with another tackle. Devin is very active here early. 3rd down and 4 at the Dallas 32. Yeah. They feel like they might be the worst good team in the NFC. But again, we'll see how they do the rest of the way. They might get hot, but they're very unpredictable. Dak on 3rd down and 4, steps up in the pocket, scrambling, gambling. We got a flag on the play, and almost intercepted by the Raiders. And it's kind of crazy for me to say this, but I feel like this is going to be a better game than yesterday with the Eagles and Lions. And obviously, Eagles and Lions, we were expecting, a lot more from Detroit, but it shows you with no Ben Johnson calling plays, the Lions fucking suck on offense, considering they have Goff and they have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams, and obviously Sam Laporta is injured. But with an arsenal like that, we expect to see what we got out of Ben Johnson, out of that offense last year. And again, Detroit, they're still a good team, but that offense stinks compared to last year. And we know the Eagles' defense is top tier, but even, Detroit playing other teams, it seems like that offense has been a little sluggish, which is kind of crazy considering the talent that they have. But it shows you can have elite talent, but if you don't have a good play caller, you're only going to do so much, and you're not going to be able to hit your ceiling. So, and a punt there, and 7-yard return by Tucker, first down and 10 at the Raider 31. Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good hire as well. Obviously Franklin going from Penn State to Virginia Tech is a downgrade, but you got to be able to rebuild your reputation, right? And then obviously we know he's passionate and he's a good recruiter, so it's probably safe to say in the near future, Virginia Tech might be Virginia Tech like it was with Michael Vick. It might take a couple of years for Franklin to get the recruits, but it's probably safe to say they'll be a top 25 team sooner than later. Gino with the play action. Beautiful. First down, Raiders. Nice job there by Brock Bowers, the Georgia product. First down and 10 at the Raider 49. And again, even though these offenses aren't as good as the Lions and the Eagles, obviously we know the defenses aren't going to be on that level. So it should open up some pretty big plays on offense and defense. Interceptions, fumbles, big first downs, and who knows, pick six, fumble for a touchdown, punt block for a touchdown. It could happen here tonight. Handoff there to Ashton Genty, and he goes backwards. Loss of a yard. Hooker with a nice tackle. Second down and 11 at the Vegas 48. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. And definitely happy about the Naylor deal. I knew he was going to pass the physical. They could have paid him 5 years, $100 million, 5 years, $120 million, and no Mariner fan would have bat a single eye at that deal. But to get it, for 92, 93, around that range where you have another 7-8 million to kind of play around with, maybe to go to Polo. I like that. And again, Naylor definitely is worth 20 million a year or more. So we got a little bit of a discount. And, he obviously just had a baby. He loves it here in the Pacific Northwest. And again, we're very excited to have Naylor for the next 5 years. Nice 4-yard pass by Geno Smith there to Tucker. Bland with the tackle. Third down and 7 at the Dallas 48. Shotgun set. Geno Smith. Little short middle there to Mayer. And he bobbles it. And it looks like a gain of about a yard there. Fourth down and 6 at the Dallas 47. Do you think, Sarah, that the games, in the first couple months were a little bit more exciting, compared to the games lately? It just feels like scoring has been down tremendously. And not every defense is top tier, but it just feels like the NFL, I don't want to say they're in a rut, but it just feels a little off within the last, month and a half. Not to say that NFL fans aren't excited, but I mean, the product that they're putting on TV for Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, let's be honest, more times than not, they fail. They haven't, really picked the best matchups. And I know that they pick these games months in advance. So I get that, but again, it seems like they're definitely missing, opportunities. Like they could have had the Buccaneers and the Bills play on Sunday night or Monday night. Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, regardless of record, that would have been a smart one to put on TV for people who love offense and just want to be able to see a good football game back and forth. And again, they probably thought, the Eagles and Lions would do something similar, even though their defenses are really good. But, it just feels a little off. I don't know really how to put my finger on it, but I feel like scoring is down. The matchups haven't been very good overall. Every once in a while, you'll see an amazing game, that, gives us a little bit of faith, like that Buccaneers-Bills game. Even though the Bucs lost, it was fun. until obviously the fourth quarter for us. But as far as for outsiders, looking in, they enjoyed that game. And, they need to be able to look at those quarterback matchups and select a little bit more, precisely, and again, not to say that Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff isn't must-see TV, but it shows you, without Ben Johnson calling the plays for the Lions, there's a reason why that Dan Campbell can't get fourth down conversions to convert anymore, because you're not as smart as Ben Johnson calling plays, and again, Chicago ended up really lucking out. We thought that it might take 2-3 years, for Ben to get that Bears team going. And then eventually he probably would be fired and then have to, go back to Detroit or find another job. But again, sometimes if you are, a play calling genius and you have a swagger and an aura and people buy in to what you're saying and they believe you, you can end up getting steps done maybe a year early, 2 years early. And now the Bears are going to be threatening the Lions and the Packers, not only for playoff position, but the Bears could, right? They could end up winning the division, which is a crazy thing to say, considering Caleb Williams really hasn't been that great in 2025. He's had his ups and his downs. So it shows you how good that coaching job has really been for Chicago there with Ben Johnson. Cole with that punt, and we're at 1st down and 10 at the Dallas 4. I agree with that too. Yeah. And college football feels like it's up for grabs too. Again, we know Ohio State and Indiana are the best. I don't know how the hell A&M came back from like almost 30 down and came back and won. But again, it's very clear Indiana and Ohio State are the cream of the crop. But again, after them, it feels like everyone else in the top 10 is kind of even. Javonte Williams for that nice 9-yard gain right up the middle. 2nd down and 1 at the Dallas 13. Handoff up the middle and a 3-yard run there. 1st down, Cowboys. We damn boys, move the chains. Yeah, that's going to be a battle. Again, Oregon versus USC. I will be doing that live stream. And obviously Oregon versus Washington, even though Washington hasn't been as good as maybe expected and whatnot, that's still going to be a tough one in Seattle. But again, and then we're done with college football as far as the regular season. And then for some lucky teams, they'll be in the college football playoff. For others, they'll be looking at a bowl game. Dak with the play action. Pump fake, pump fake. There goes the ball. Here we go. And this was the madness that I was waiting for. He coughed it up. And again, when you have players like Max Crosby on the Raiders, right, you know that on any given moment, he can change the outcome of a game. And he can't single-handedly win the game by himself, but he has a game record. We know TJ Watt, JJ Watt, and a few others in the past have had that type of impact on the game. But a great job by Crosby from behind. And that was beautiful. And again, crazy to think that a Cowboy-Raider game would be more exciting than the Eagles and the Lions. But I guess that's where we're at in 2025. Sometimes the matchup looks good. The game ends up stinking, right? And sometimes when the game looks like it's going to be stinky on paper, it ends up actually being one of those really good games that people would, probably say, damn, maybe I should have checked that out. But for me, Max Crosby is one of my top 5 players on defense overall in the NFL that are in my, personal favorites. The guy has an endless motor. Yeah, we know the Raiders are a crappy team, but there's nothing crappy about Max Crosby. He could start on any team in the NFL. He's one of the best pass rushers in the game, endless motor. And again, you don't really see too many people like him that don't take plays off. I would love to have a player like that in Tampa any day of the week. I love him. It's almost like a weird thing to see nowadays, someone that has that much effort, game in and game out, play in and play out. Gino on 1st down and 10. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And you're going to see some sack lunches and some big plays on defense because we obviously know the defenses aren't that great for either team. Offensive lines, not the greatest as well. So that will open up the door for Dak and Gino to make some big plays, but also to have some bad plays for big turnovers, which we already saw with Dak and Max Crosby. But let's see if the Cowboys can enforce their will here on Geno. Little screen pass. That ain't going to get it done. Ashton Genty, 5-yard pass towards that left side. James pushes him out. 3rd down and 12 at the Dallas 17. Panthers fan in the building. What's good? Congrats on your season. Really proud of you guys. I knew eventually the Panthers would get second place, whether it was this year or next year. And again, maybe a year ahead of schedule. And obviously the Saints are terrible. The Falcons are injury prone and terrible this year as well. Cool to be able to see a team that's normally at the bottom rising to the top like the Bears and the Carolina Panthers. 3rd down and 12. Geno, deep middle to Tucker, and complete. And obviously not having Jacoby Myers anymore and Devontae Adams on that Raider roster. Not a whole lot, to be able to go to. I mean, if Tucker is your best fucking option, it could be a long night. But let's see if they can get a field goal here. Kick is up, and field goal is good. Daniel Carlson there, 35-yarder, 3-0 Raiders. But it definitely feels, with college football, you got obviously, Ohio State, Indiana, but other than them, everyone else 3 through 10 is pretty even. And you don't really know what's going to happen this year in the college football playoff. I imagine a lot of people that are Buckeye fans thinking they're going to repeat, but Indiana could beat them if they played one-on-one. The way that they played this year, they have a roster good enough to match up to Ohio State for the very first time. So that could happen. And anytime if you end up getting any of the top 2 teams upset, who knows who could end up being champion in college football out of the top 10 right now. And then in the NFL, we obviously know the pecking order, the Rams, the Eagles, they seem like they are the best. And then below them, got everyone else, the Lions, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, the Bears, the Packers, and they're all kind of on the same level. And then obviously in the AFC, the Broncos are the best team in the NFL, and AFC record-wise, Colts and Patriots are damn good this year. Bills might be the team that, has a weakness at defense, but as long as they have Josh Allen and James Cook, they can beat a team or two in the playoffs. And then obviously we know the Ravens are eventually going to catch up and pass Pittsburgh, take that playoff spot. And then obviously if you're looking on the AFC West, the Chiefs are in trouble. And even though Slater and Alt are out for Justin Herbert on the line, it kind of feels like the Chargers could end up taking that spot away from the Chiefs. And then you'll end up having the Broncos and the Chargers in the playoffs. And maybe the Chiefs are on the couch at home, which would be a kind of a weird thing considering how good Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, Andy Reid, and Spags have been. But again, all good things kind of come to an end based off age or roster and or injuries for that matter. And I know the Chiefs are going to fight like hell, but again, they're not winning 1-score games like they were last year. And that really is the big difference in the NFL. Can you win 1-score games, between 3, 4, 6, and 7, primarily. And again, if you can win, in a high percentage, you're going to the playoffs. If not, good luck, and they still have a chance, but it definitely looks like they're fading in the opposite direction. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we got the Rams, and we had probably the hardest 2 months out of any team in the NFL. No Bucky, no Evans, no Godwin, no Jamel Dean. We've had a lot of injuries. But after this Rams game, we potentially could go 6-0 the rest of the way. And obviously playing the Panthers, it won't be easy. We could split against the Panthers. And if we play bad shit, we could lose 2 games to the Panthers. But hopefully if we, can beat the Rams, that would be great. But if not, and we have to drop to 6-5, we could still win the last 6 games. It's just kind of shitty when you have a hard schedule, 8 weeks in a row, pretty much, besides the Saints. And then it gets easy at the end. But, I just never expected it to be this tough and to have this many injuries. But we'll see if we can get hot and healthy at the right time. The Rams game, obviously, on Sunday Night Football. If the Bucs can find a way to win that game, that could springboard us and, get us really hot at the end of the year. But even if we lose that, I still feel confident that the team can put something together. And Carlson kicks it off, and a nice 22-yard return there by Turpin. 1st down and 10 at the Dallas 31. Yeah, but you got to think, just finishing in second place How awesome would that be? Even if you don't make the playoffs, you go 9-8, you go 10-7, and let's say 10-7 and you miss the playoffs, but you get to 10-7. When was the last time the Panthers hit 10-7? It's been a minute. So, and a nice throw there by Dak Prescott. George Pickens, the former Steeler, move the chains. First down, Cowboys. We did, boys, move the chains. First down and 10 at the Dallas 43. But again, we'll see where it goes. And again, if you guys don't make it this year, you might be able to make it next year. With the Saints obviously are tanking, the Falcons are going in the wrong direction, and you guys are slowly but surely kind of working your way up, which is awesome to see. Hand off up the middle, and Javonte Williams with a 3-yard gain towards that left tackle. Wilson with the coverage. Second down and 7 at the Dallas 46. Yeah, I saw that this morning, and me and my best friend fucking screamed in the air and waved our fists like Homer Simpson. It's the second year in a row we've gotten tickets to see Wemby, and he's gotten injured right before we were going to see him both times, last year and now this year. We're devastated, but we're still going to have a great time. We're going to, hit the arcade, go get some good food, and then we'll go to the Blazer game. But, it's like the sports gods don't want us to see Wemby or something. It's like one day he's the best player in the world or one of the best, and then obviously the next he's out conveniently in the 2-week stretch where we're going to, go to the game the day before Thanksgiving. Terrible timing for Wemby to get hurt in the same time twice in 2 years, but I guess that's how it goes. 7-yard run there by Javonte Williams. Second down and 3 at the Vegas 32. Yeah, I think Bryce has proven that, he fucks up and he makes mistakes, but Rico Dowdle has been a great running back for you guys, which is essentially a running back the Cowboys gave up on. And when you get a guy that's top 5 or top 10 in rushing, and it's a lower name guy, that shows how good he's really been doing, as well as the offensive line. So even though Bryce has fucked up, a few times throughout the season, think about how many times he's played well compared to the, previous year. So as that pass is batted down, Dak Prescott there by Booker, but I think that Bryce, to me, watching the games, and again, some Panther fans still need to be convinced, but again, Jalen Hurts and Eagle fans had the same type of thing. I don't know if this is the guy, but again, if you watch a guy in college, you watch a guy progress, depends on who the coach is and the offensive coordinator, supporting cast, O-line, running backs, wide receivers, and defense. I like overall what I've seen from him this year. And again, if you guys can get second place, I think that speaks for itself, that he's been playing good enough football to get you to second, not being in dead last in the NFC South. And Prescott passing complete, and Devin White in coverage, the former Buccaneer. Fourth down and 3 at the Vegas 32 with a 3-3 tie, but already more entertaining than the Eagles-Lions matchup, which is a crazy thing to say. But again, just because you have elite players doesn't mean you're going to play elite ball if you don't have the right play callers or if the defenses are just too good. Yeah, I mean, and again, not counting this year, but if it was the first couple years, I wouldn't want Bryce, on my team from a few years ago. But based on the improvement that I saw this year, the Bryce would be a guy that I would consider, and again, he's an undersized quarterback. So again, he's going to need, a lot, a really good head coach, a really good play caller, a great O-line, really good weapons. McMillan obviously was even though we know he's kind of a me guy rather than a team guy, but again, has played pretty well, to start the season. And again, giving Bryce more weapons with McMillan and obviously with, the running back with Rico Dowdle, even though those names may not, flash to the average fan, but again, if you've watched any Panther football or have kept up in fantasy football or just the scores week in and week out, pretty impressive, and again, it's not like they're in a position yet to, make a deep run in the NFC, but again, nice to be able to see them go from last to being second now. And who knows, maybe the Buccaneers and the Panthers will be in the playoffs together next year. So, yeah, and if you had CJ Stroud, I don't think you guys would have been that much further. I mean, you might have been able to squeak out a couple more wins in his rookie year, but obviously we saw CJ kind of have a sophomore slump, in the second year. And again, Jaden Daniels, it's not really a sophomore slump, it's more injuries. But again, it really does, matter who the coach is, who the coordinator is, and obviously supporting cast. I mean, look at the Lions, right? You got Jared Goff, you got David Montgomery, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Amon Ra, you got Sam Laporta, you got Jamison Williams. You don't really have players like that, right? But again, Dan Campbell and the rest of the crew, they can't call plays the same way as Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Bears. And look what he's been able to do with the Bears. So he's got less to work with, and he's playing better football over there, so it shows you if you actually have an intelligent, really bright, smart, play caller, head coach, whether it be for offense or defense, that can really shape a team moving forward. That is big facts. And I feel like after CJ's rookie season, the hype has kind of died off a little bit. At one point in his rookie season, we were like, wow, top 10 quarterback, maybe top 5 pretty soon. And then we saw what he did in his second year, and you're like, wow, big drop off there because they had a year of tape on him. That's why we have to evaluate year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. So that way we can look to see the progression of the athlete. And, are they overrated? Are they underrated? Was it a good pick? Or maybe do we need to move on? And obviously, Bryce obviously being undersized, they definitely like to criticize, but, I like the way that he's been playing this year overall. And now a decent return there. We got a 3-3 tie with the Cowboys and the Raiders. Right. And that is a big part of it too, especially if you have the wrong coach, the wrong coordinator, It's like the Lions essentially have almost exactly the same team, plus injuries, right? But again, they can't move the ball, even with superstar players, because he doesn't have the mind as a Ben Johnson. And again, guys like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Ben Johnson, these guys are not a dime a dozen. They're very rare. Nice little pass there to the outside. Go, baby, go. And a nice 19-yard pass by Geno to Beck. First down, Raiders. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. It's cool to be able to see shitty teams get good again. Panthers playing better. Bears looking good. It's been a long time since the Bears and the Panthers have been good. And I love it. First down and 10. Colts and Patriots being good again is pretty awesome as well. Nice pass there by Geno. I like that. Brock Bowers, the Georgia product. First down, Raiders. Move the chains. Nice pass from Geno to Bowers there. And again, offensive line, you just got to give them enough time to go through the progressions. Bang, bang. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats, the best beats on YouTube. And he's pumped out 5 or 6 new beats. I feel like this is the best one out of those 6. This one is called Orange. My boy. Play action bootleg. Nice pass by Geno. Geno looking like Geno on the Seahawks. Nice job. First down, Raiders. And remember, they don't got a Devontae Smith to throw to. They don't even got a Jacoby Myers anymore. So it's like they're very thin other than Brock Bowers. Thomas is going to be one of their main guys. And Bowers is there, and they have Genty. But as far as like wide receiver dominance, they're definitely going to be able to draft one next season. And they might need to be able to get one in free agency as well. First down and 10. And Geno short right to Genty, loss of 4. And great coverage there by the Cowboys. I just love when people put their heart and soul into something. If someone's got a dream and a goal, even if it's not in the same field as me, it really, kind of tugs at the heartstrings, because if it was easy for people to have their dreams and goals come true, everyone would do it. And I'm proud of my boy, and he's going to have big things coming his way. Second down and 14, Geno Smith. Shotgun set, incomplete short right to Tucker. Good hit there by the Cowboys, by Bland. Third down and 14 at the Dallas 21. And we're going to be doing Blazers and Suns tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific, a little bit of a late matchup for the Blazers. And then Blazers Bulls. So I can see Blazers go against Josh Giddey. And Thursday, we'll be doing the Texans and the Bills. And then obviously when we get into Friday, Saturday, we'll be college football. Saturday, obviously Ducks and USC. Sunday, obviously the Rams and the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. Can't wait. Third down and 14. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Big sack lunch there by Houston. And again, offensive lines are going to get beat up today on both teams. Fourth down and 20. And we should get the field goal unit, Daniel Carlson, to come out. And it should be 6-3 here momentarily. Yeah, I mean, that's a reason why we're probably not going to be doing WWE on the channel anymore. I mean, I did do Monday Night Raw once in a while back in the day, earlier in the year. And, we did do WWE PLEs, but, unless they come up with a cheaper package that's $10 a month, Kick Is Up by Carlson, and it's good. 6-3 Raiders, but already more entertaining than the Eagles and Lions from yesterday. But again, if they lower the price to like $10 a month, I will consider doing WWE PLEs once a month. But, if not, then, we're going to be shooting for every Mariner game as long as I'm physically able to do it. I was shooting for 155 out of 162, taking 1 day a month reserved for WWE PLEs or pay-per-views. But yeah, $30 a month is way too much, especially when they're trying to bundle it ESPN, Disney Plus, Hulu. I already have those other things. So it's like, unless they come up with a more strategic option, like when they had it on Peacock or WWE Network, they're losing a lot of fans. And I love wrestling, but yeah, I'm not paying $30 a month. Six-3 Raiders. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to the Mariner organization for signing Josh Naylor. And actually on a pretty reasonable deal. 5 years, less than $100 million. Less than $20 million per. And again, he could have gotten, 20 to 30 million per year somewhere else. But again, that is the number one, thing that we needed to get done. And coincidentally, he's the first guy to sign. So it shows you how much he loves Seattle. If he wanted to drag this out, and negotiate for money, obviously he could have. But to be able to get the deal done and reasonable, so that way we might have a little left over to try to get Polo or some extra bullpen help. Definitely awesome to see. Can't wait to be able to see the Mariners play in March in 2025. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have every team that you root for that's going to be great, but, we'll see where it goes. I mean, the best thing that you have going for you is probably the Carolina Panthers at the moment, so. Fantasy recap. Speaking of your Panthers, Bryce Young, 448 yards, 3 TDs, no picks. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. For anyone that doubts Bryce Young, maybe even yourself, he's if you got the right people around him, he can make the plays. He just didn't really have the right, people around him in the first couple years, and that, you got to understand, coaches fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail coaches. And again, there's not as many elite coaches and coordinators out there like people think. People think, yeah, you can just get the next big thing, from college or from another team, but that's not always the case. And I'm looking forward to that. Panthers, Niners, let's go. And again, we haven't seen the Panthers all year, so I'm really excited about that. And then obviously the Niners are starting to get healthy. Purdy is back. CMC is a beast this year. But again, that would be a challenging game for the Panthers to win, right? Everyone's going to be picking the Niners, but if you can win that, how big would that be for the Carolina Panthers? I'll be rooting for you guys, even though you guys are in our division. And George Pickens is open there. 19-yard pass from Dak Prescott. First down, Cowboys. We damn boys, move the chains. But that's a sweet matchup. You know, both likable teams, cool jerseys for both. Panthers, Niners. That's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that. That's actually one of the better fun matchups that I've seen lately. And Dak again. First down, Cowboys. George Pickens. He says, I actually get the ball here in Dallas. Nice job. First down. We damn boys. Move the chains. Nice back-to-back catches there from Prescott to Pickens. 6-3 Raiders. Yeah, but even if you guys lose the game, everyone's going to expect you to lose. But if you can end up, balling out with Bryce, it'll be kind of like a coming out party, and also it would give you a position to be in contention, if you keep going that route for potentially a wild card or even winning the division, depending on how Tampa does with all the injuries that we have. After the Rams, it gets slightly easier, but just as much as I do, the Bucs and the Panthers, it's not a for sure thing. Even if the Bucs have a better record, the Panthers play the Buccaneers really, really well, regardless on who's on the roster. Every year they play them really hard, and again, a lot of times we, can split. So I feel like the matchups with the Panthers usually are more competitive than the Saints and Falcons sometimes, even though the Falcons sometimes goes down to the wire as well. And that's going to be the end of the first quarter. 6-3 Raiders. But there has been some good, entertaining football in the first quarter. I mean, honestly, I'm more entertained in the first quarter in this game than 4 quarters with the Eagles and Lions. That's crazy to say, but it's true. Six-3 Raiders. We won't take any hate and slander. But I'm looking forward to it. You're not going to be able to have the Panthers. This is going to be their first primetime game of the year, I believe. So, it's nice to be able to see new teams, especially teams that are, starting to get a little bit better, as the year is going on. And, again, normally I don't say I want to watch the Chicago Bears, but, I'm kind of wanting to watch the Chicago Bears as well. It's like, when you're starting to see the improvement maybe a year or two early, it definitely makes you want to kind of go out of your way to see how those teams are being constructed in 2025. And obviously I've got to see a lot of the Pats and the Colts and the Broncos. So, I've already got a chance to kind of evaluate them. But Panthers and Bears, I think those might be the next 2 teams that I kind of want to be able to see. And we're already going to get that nice Monday night matchup with the Panthers and the Niners. And obviously on Sunday night, a really good one between the Buccaneers and the Rams. And the Bucs, could end up getting their ass kicked. Right now, the Rams look like the best team in the NFC besides the Eagles. But, we'll see how it all plays out. If we can find a way to win that game, that could be a big springboard victory, in those last, 6 games to try to get us to 12-5 before the season ends. Unless we can end up winning against the Rams and potentially winning the rest of the games. And then you would be, sitting at the 13-4 record. But we will wait and see before we talk anything like that. Defense has not really been playing very well for the Buccaneers as of late. So I think the haters are, hating on it because, it's not the Chiefs, it's not the Bills, it's not the Ravens. We're finally getting new teams that are breaking through that aren't everyone's favorites. The Broncos, the Colts, and the Patriots aren't everyone's favorites. But again, all good teams eventually end up breaking down. Fade route, one-handed grab by Pickens, but I believe he was out of bounds there. Let's see if he got 1 or 2 down. Looks like he got maybe half of a foot. Great effort there by George Pickens with the Odell Beckham Jr. type of grab there, but just out of bounds. Tyler in the building, what's good? Nah, we're not going to be able to take down the Rams, bro. You haven't been watching the Rams lately. But you have to understand, like, our team can't stop the run or the pass, and we have injuries, Touchdown, Cowboys. Dak Prescott to C.D. Lamb. Beautiful play there from Dak. You have to understand Matthew Stafford might be the MVP of the league right now. He's thrown like something insane, like 22 touchdowns and no picks in the last 7 fucking games. Like, they're on another level right now. Offensively, defensively, special teams, coaching. Honestly, they even look better than the Eagles, right now. So, again, you guys were close. You guys have a good defense. Rams have a good defense. The problem is the Buccaneers don't have a good defense, and normally we do. And no Bucky Irving, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. Hard to win when you don't have your starting running back and your star wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 out, on top of wide receiver 3 and Jalen McMillan as well. Ibuka is nice. Tucker played great with the 3 tutties. Rashad White, but again, Baker can only do so much. And again, if you want to be able to beat, the Patriots, and you want to beat the Bills and the Eagles and the Lions, I need to have my best players available. And, I haven't had Bucky Irving since week 3. So, we're starting to lose games and we have a hard schedule, but it'll take a miracle to beat the Rams the way that they're playing. Are they beatable? Yes, they are beatable, but they would have to have a lot of things go wrong and a lot of things to go right for Tampa to win. But after this Rams game, we have arguably 6, easier games that we could end up running the table. We just had probably the hardest 2-month stretch out of any team in the NFL. So we'll see how it goes. You got to understand where we're at. Okay, so after the first 3 weeks of the season, when we had Bucky Irving, we played the Falcons, Texans, and Jets, and there was a bunch of comebacks, and Baker was crazy, MVP Baker, right? But then it went Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, Saints, which is the only one bad team, then Patriots, Bills, Rams. No one has ever had a tougher stretch than that in 2 months, where you had all tough playoff teams or borderline playoff teams on the outside looking in, like the Niners, but still with a decent record, and then only one bad team in the Saints, and then all the other teams are either playoff teams or close to being a playoff team. And again, I've been watching Buck football, for 30 years. I don't think I've seen a schedule that tough, and also the injuries on top of it makes it even worse, that we're dropping these games and the defense stinks, stopping the run and the pass. But it does get a little bit easier after that. After the Rams game on Sunday Night Football, Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. We could literally go 6-0, at that point. But I want to try to compete to beat the Rams, and then if we do that, we could win 7 in a row. And if we do that, we could go 13-4. But just a really tough stretch, And again, if we had Godwin, Evans, as well as Bucky, maybe we win half of the games that we lost. Maybe we beat the Lions but lose to the Eagles. Maybe we beat the Patriots but we lose to the Bills, something like that. But, it is what it is. But it definitely will be a fun matchup to see Stafford and Baker go at it, and the history that Baker has with the Rams, with McVay giving him a shot after the Panthers, and then eventually played well for those last 3-4 games. And then Tampa gave him the contract, and the rest is history. And we love Baker Mayfield. 10-6 Cowboys after that beautiful touchdown there from Dak to C.D. Lamb. Raiders here. And Goodwin with a nice 19-yard return. First down and 10 at the Raiders 31. Yeah, we were very dangerous then. My favorite team is still the 2002, with Brad Johnson and Keyshawn, Keenan McCardell, Ken Dilger, Joe Juravicius, Allstott, Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber. That's mine. But yeah, the Brady squad was special. And then if Antonio Brown wasn't crazy and ran out on the team in that Jets game after we had an injury to Godwin, maybe we would have been able to beat the Rams and go back to back. But, we may have not won the Super Bowl the second time after going, that first time with Brady. But at least to be able to go to 2 Super Bowls and win both, the only other team to say that they can achieve that is the Ravens. So 5-yard run there by Raheem Mostert. Right up the middle. And that is first down Raiders for Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it. Bye-bye. And Geno, play action. And a pass to Tucker short by about 4 yards. Second down and 10 for the Raiders. Genty up the middle for a 10-yard run. First down, Raiders. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the history for you guys, it hasn't been the same, with Jake Delhomme, obviously right after us in, 2003 against the Eagles, back in the day when you had a few of those teams in the NFC that were battling it out with the Eagles and the Panthers and obviously had to play the Patriots in that Super Bowl and whatnot. But then you had the Cam Newton one as well, and passes dropped there, incomplete. But obviously 2 really fun teams, just kind of ran into the 2 teams that you didn't really want to run into at that time. So one with the Patriots with Jake Delhomme, and obviously a very, very good team with the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning. Von Miller on that other side as well. Second down and 10 and shotgun set. Geno sacked by Williams. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Big sack lunch there. Third down and 19 at the Vegas 45. Wow. And Geno pass, incomplete, short right to Genty. 4th down and 19 at the Vegas 45. Delay a game, 5-yard penalty there. And there's a big punt. Turpin 14-yard return. 10-6 Cowboy lead with 11:49 left in the second quarter. With Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think that we've seen, enough on him. I don't think I would label him a bust, but again, he's not, as good as the number one pick overall standard. He's not even a top 10 quarterback. He's normally somewhere between like 11 and 18 most of the time. So, I feel like at this point, if you decided to move on, that might be ideal, but they ended up giving him an extension, so they're stuck with him and whatnot. So, I mean, again, I know some fans, love what, they get from him from time to time, but, it's not really ideal. I feel, we've seen enough of him where, he has made some amazing plays and whatnot, but again, I don't really know how much better he's going to get. Unless you end up getting a better head coach or a better coordinator, a better supporting cast. And if that ends up happening, then maybe, he can take his game to the next level and whatnot. But and Javonte Williams there, no gain. I mean, you already got kind of an undersized. Quarterback and Bryce at this point. There would be no point on trying to pay more money to get a guy like Kyler when you already have a Bryce. So Prescott short right there to George Pickens. Yeah, I think Trevor is an example of coaches failing a QB. I would agree with that. I mean, he had all the tools, to be, the guy, but again, if you don't surround them, around the right, supporting cast, O-line, defense, the overall vibe, and again, we'll see, how it goes moving forward and whatnot, but it just kind of feels like he's always going to be, 11 through 18. It just doesn't really feel like he'll ever be a top 10 quarterback in, fans' eyes overall. Prescott incomplete short left to Ferguson. I mean, they got some weapons, here and there. But I think it really more or less comes down to coaching. Prescott short middle to Pickens. 7-yard pass there. 3rd down and 3 at the Dallas 39. I mean, again, but the thing is, if you put Trevor Lawrence on the 49ers, how much better is he? Again, he would be able to take his game to another level. So if you have a brilliant guy like a Kyle Shanahan that can get the most out of you, we know that Trevor could be better somewhere else with better coaching. But if he stays on the Jags, it's pretty much going to be the same thing every year, it feels like, unless they end up getting, the right coach and the right offensive coordinator and the right offensive line and supporting cast to make him better. Prescott short middle to CeeDee Lamb. 14-yard pass, 1st down, Cowboys. Davis towards that left tackle there for 9 yards, 2nd down and 1. Two-yard run there by Javonte Williams. 1st down, Cowboys. Prescott short left to CeeDee Lamb. There we go. Come on, let's see what the Dak Prescott can do here. And Javonte Williams, only a 1-yard gain. ESPN was having some technical difficulties over here. I think we're good to go now. 2nd down and 10 with less than 7 minutes to go here before halftime. 10-6 Cowboy lead. And we'll see if they end up trying to give the ball to CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens here. Prescott, screen pass to Javonte Williams. And you can't be going sideways there. Raiders defense is going to be too fast for that. 3rd down and 10 after no gain there. Devin White and Roberts there in coverage. 3rd down and 10 at the Vegas 14. All right, show me Dak. Show me the connection that you have with CD or George Pickens here. Let's go. Audible at the line. See if the Raiders send the blitz on 3rd down and 10. And Prescott, check down. And Lepke is there, diving for the marker, but short. Devin White and Wilson in there with the tackle. 4th down and 1 at the Vegas 5. And obviously are the Cowboys patient and, smart enough to take the 3 right here? Of course not. They're going to more than likely go for it, but take the points. And then again, if you are going to go for it on 4th down and 1, QB sneak with Dak Prescott. No other play, period. If you're going to run the play, 4th down and 1, Dak Prescott, it doesn't even have to be a tush push. Just QB sneak, jump, you'll get the first down. But if you do any play, screen pass, or, run up the middle with Genty, you're probably not going to get it, just based on how the game has gone up to this point. But, I would like to be able to see teams play smart, instead of everyone trying to be like Dan Campbell going for it on 4th down and 1, 4th down and 5, 4th down and 15, and they just don't care. It's not a video game. It's not Madden, It's real life. 5:19 left in the second quarter, 10-6 Cowboys. Fourth down and 1. Dak, right in the middle. Touchdown, Cowboys. And Ferg with the big touchdown, Jake Ferguson. And they decide to be able to throw the ball, which is pretty much a gamble. But again, you're playing a zone, nobody there. You got to be playing man. I don't know what the Raiders were thinking on that defensive coverage, but great job by Dak Prescott. Nice job by Jake Ferguson. That might be the easiest touchdown Ferg has gotten in his fucking career. Extra point is up, and whistle is blown. All right, false start on the Cowboys. Crosby shaking his head, and again, for the Raiders defense to be good, they need like 3 Crosbys and a whole new retooling of that defense. Extra point is up, right down the middle, and it is good. 17-6, Cowboy lead. Let's see if the Raiders and Geno Smith can end up getting a touchdown to make this a little interesting as we go into half. (17-6) Cowboy lead, 5:16 left in the second quarter. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. We traded off field goals there early in the first quarter. Raiders, Cowboys, Raiders. And then obviously CeeDee Lamb with that nice 18-yard pass by Dak. And then another touchdown pass from Dak to Jake Ferguson there on 4th down. And now we have a 17-6 lead. Let's see if the Raiders can have a little bit of magic. I don't really know how you're going to do it. Maybe Brock Bout, and Geno Smith might be the only combination that can get you in there besides Ashton Genty. I'm just waiting for the commercial break to get over with. We got 5:16 left here in the second quarter. 17-6 Cowboy lead. Already more entertaining in these first two quarters than what we saw overall with the Eagles and Lions last night. And again, it just feels like a lot of the matchups on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday have been a little bit of a letdown. But hopefully we'll be able to get the Raiders to give us a little magic before this game is over. Max Crosby can't do it by himself. 18-yard return there. First down and 10 at the Vegas 22. First down and 10. Geno under center. Short middle to Brock Bowers. There we go. 15-yard gain off the play action. And a nice little bootleg there. First down, Raiders. First down and 10 at the Vegas 38. They got to keep going to Bowers, and then maybe a little Genty. Bland and Murray with the coverage after that 16-yard pass by Geno Smith. Good route there by Bowers. Great hands as well. Geno under center. Man in motion. And a little pass towards that right side. Geno on the run. And almost intercepted. And complete. The intended receiver was Tucker. Hooker in coverage for the Cowboys. Second down and 10 at the Vegas 38. Shotgun set. Smith. Incomplete to Bowers. Third down and 10 at the Vegas 38. Come on, Geno, you got to be better. Big third down here. .417 left here in the second quarter. 17-6 Cowboy lead. See if Geno can at least get a few more first downs before halftime here. Audible at the line. Shotgun set. Smith to Tyler Lockett. Nice 14-yard gain. First down. Raiders. There you go. And obviously Lockett is going to be more of an asset for Geno here than he was obviously for Cam Ward and Tennessee. Bland with the coverage there on Lockett. First down and 10 at the Dallas 47. Keep moving the chains, Geno. First down and 10. Geno under center. Play action to Genty. Give it to him. There we go. And finally, Genty getting a little screen pass there. 8-yard gain. Second down and 2 at the Dallas 39. I mean, they don't have a whole lot to work with. Tucker, Bowers, Genty, Lockett. Obviously, they need a lot more to work with for Chip Kelly to be successful. This isn't the Ohio State Buckeye offense that he's used to from last year, helping Ryan Day win a natty. Second down and 2. And a nice 8-yard pass to Genty on the other side. There we go. First down, Raiders. And again, if the Raiders want to have any shot of winning this game or keeping it close, they have to score a touchdown before halftime, making it 17-13. Oh, looks like they had a face mask there, too. Man in motion, Brock Bowers. Geno, play action to Genty. Deep throw, tipped, intercepted. Wow. And Marquise Bell with the big interception off the deflection. And that's kind of been the story of the Raiders and Geno Smith all year. Tries to thread the needle deep. It gets tipped, and the Cowboys end up getting the big interception. Yeah. Less weapons to work with, obviously here than he had in Seattle. But still, there would be some days Geno would look great and other days that he would look terrible. Same thing with the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. Most of the time he's going to look great, but every once in a while you're going to have a clunker and a dud like he did against the Rams. And, anytime you end up having quarterbacks that are typically, 11 through 18, kind of like a Trevor Lawrence, sometimes they're going to be good, but other times, they're going to fall into bad habits or just kind of bad luck. That one was a little bit of bad luck with the tip, and then it just went right into a Cowboy player, in the right place, in the right time here. But, you're throwing it into like quadruple coverage, essentially. You got to make sure that the throw is on point. Dak, little play action. Pickens. And almost intercepted by the Raiders. Johnson should have had that. What happened to my hands? And obviously there's a reason why you play DB, not wide receiver. Second down and 10 at the Dallas 31. Right in his hands, too. Cowboy player did get his hand to kind of throw him off momentarily, but could have had it there. But Pickens with a little poke away late. Second down and 10 at the Dallas 31. Shotgun set. And a handoff up the middle, and that is tick, 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 tick. And that is the 2-minute warning. 17-6 Dallas. And again, Geno, not a whole lot to work with out there. They traded away Jacoby Myers, the Jags. I mean, you got Tucker, you got Brock Bowers, who is your main guy, and Ashton Genty at running back, but you need a hell of a lot more than just that. Lockett gives you some familiarity with him being on Seattle with Pete Carroll and Geno, but at this point of his career, he's not going to be doing too much. He's not going to win a game for you necessarily. He might be able to come up with a few first downs and a few touchdowns from here to the rest of the season, but they definitely need a hell of a lot more. Third down and 11 at the Dallas 30, and now we're at a commercial break. 2-minute warning, 17-6 Cowboy lead. And Raiders definitely needed a touchdown. I mean, even a field goal would have been good, to get to 17-9. But obviously we know the Cowboy offense is quite a bit better than the Raiders, even though one team's 3-5-1 and the other is 2-7. But Raiders are, looking more like the bottom tier, rather than the Cowboys, even though they only have one more win. But Cowboys look much better than a 3-5 team. I wouldn't say necessarily they look like a, 5-win team or a 6-win team, but they kind of look like they normally do when they have holes in their team. They look like a 500 ball club, where maybe they would be like 4-4 right now. That's what the Cowboys look like, because again, Dak, Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, they have enough out of Dak to be able to, put up points. But again, really the defense, a lot of times is what fails them. And also once in a while, Dak will have an off game, and, that will fail them too once in a while. Third down and 11 at the Dallas 30 as we wait for the commercial break to end. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Matthew Stafford, MVP candidate. Who would have thought? And Prescott passing complete deep on that left side to CeeDee Lamb with one-on-one coverage. And then a safety over the top late. And there's the flag. Raider DBs can't believe it. Now, is that going to be a hold on the offensive line? What are we doing here? Or is that going to be on the defense? All right, man coverage with 6-man rush. Let me see here. Dak bobbles a snap. Some pressure up the middle. I mean, I didn't really see a whole lot there. Ooh. Nice acting job there by the Cowboys. Kuntz gave him a little shimmy there and to the jaw, and you saw the Cowboys flop there and draw the flag. I mean, there was contact that was there, but, you know, I guess you have to get the referee's attention. 2 fouls on the Raiders as the Vegas crowd boos and displeasure. And now it's going to be a 23-yard penalty after all of this right here. Goes down. What an acting job. It's like I'm watching a LeBron James on the Lakers when he's healthy. Big flop. First down and 10 at the Las Vegas 47 after that flop job. Cowboy players joking about it on the sideline. And Kuntz for the Raiders still seems actively pissed that he got a penalty off that acting job there by the Cowboys. Dak, hands off. Oh, here we go. And a nice run there. 16-yard run by Javonte Williams with the ball out late. And was he down? All right, down by contact. Jeremy Chin there with the coverage. 16-yard run there by Javonte Williams. First down. Cowboys. We damn boys. Move the chains. Let's go. Let them know, TJ. Every like, every sub, every dollar, everything matters. Got to keep grinding it out until we get to the point where we're back in March where we can do Mariner baseball every day. But until then, you know, we got to grind it out with some football, some basketball, and, you know, even maybe a little crack in hockey at some point, or NASCAR. And then once March comes around, you know, we'll be able to really celebrate, you know, what we've been able to accomplish, you know, from this past season, and to be able to move forward. And honestly, I don't think I've been, you know, as excited, you know, as in an off season going into the next year. This might be the most excited I've been maybe ever, you know, since I've been a Mariner fan, you know. And again, we got a long ways to be able to put things together, you know, but again, we're definitely going in the right direction. Appreciate you. Every dollar counts. $2 holla. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. We're at $2.98 to go. Hit the Dono train. And again, every dollar will go towards paying the internet bill, the streaming fee, taking care of my pup, so that way that we can get to the days where we get into March and beyond, where we can do Mariner baseball every day. But we need support between now and then to be able to continue doing the dream and the grind. False start there on the Cowboys on Smith. First down and 15 at the Vegas 37. But we'll be doing Blazers and Suns tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific. And then we'll be doing the Blazers and the Bulls with Josh Giddey on Wednesday night, and then the Texans and the Bills on Thursday Night Football. Haven't decided yet really on Friday yet. Nice catch by George Pickens going towards the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys. Wow. George Pickens made that look way easy. Unbelievable. And we got a flag on the play. I don't know if that's going to be a celebration, excessive celebration there or whatnot, but 37-yard TD to George Pickens there. But Saturday we will be ranked Oregon Ducks versus ranked USC Trojans. Obviously with only 2 games left in the college football regular season. And then the last week will be against UW and the Huskies. I'll be doing both of those games on the weekends for the Oregon Ducks, USC and Washington being the opponents. And then obviously Sunday Night Football will be a special one to me, Buccaneers versus the Rams. Buccaneers, a playoff team, and the Rams, they might be the best team in the NFC right now, even better than the Eagles. They're right there with them. They've been playing a little bit better football as of late, but, we will see how that matchup progresses. And then we got a good one between the Panthers and the Niners on Monday night. So for like the next 6-7 days, we're going to have some pretty good events. They're not going to appeal to everyone, but again, I'm going to make sure we're going to have a good time every single day, whatever we do. I'm going to bring that energy. Kick is up. Extra point is up and good. And the Cowboys have a mini blowout here early. And again, the Raiders need a touchdown desperately. I mean, again, if you're going to lose, I was hoping that we would get at least one team in the 20s. The Cowboys might be getting 40 before this one is over. And, the Raiders would be happy to even get to 17-20 at this point, and they might not even get that. Again, best case scenario for the Raiders would probably be 20 points. And, again, the Cowboys are pacing for 46. But it shows you like how different these two organizations are at. One team's got 3 wins, another team's got 2. But the Cowboys look much better than 3-5-1. They look like they're 5-4. And then the Cowboys, they look 5-4. Raiders, they look like a 2-7 team. And it makes you kind of wonder, who the hell did they beat? Vegas, one of the worst. I mean, you got Max Crosby, who I absolutely love, and, there's not really a whole lot on the offense to love. I mean, Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, and that's about it. So it's like you got 3 players, but 3 players out of 22 starters, 11 on 11 on offense and defense ain't going to cut it. But at least we're getting more scoring and more action than we did with the Eagles and the Lions. It's like you have all these elite players, but then when you end up having a low-scoring affair, you kind of leave with a bad taste in your mouth, wanting more. But, obviously with 2 bad teams, there is going to be a room for big plays to happen. And Cowboys looking like, hey, we're not on the same level as you. We might not be a playoff team either, but, we got a little bit better roster than obviously what the Raiders have shown. And, obviously, they're going to be having to retool and rebuild for quite some time. And by the time that the Raiders get their team right, Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly might not even be there. They'll probably be fired by that point. So, but I would like to see Brock Bowers or Genty get in the end zone if possible. Or Max Crosby getting a defensive touchdown, something like that. That would be dope. But, Max Crosby can't do it by himself. (24-6) Cowboys. Not really too shocked, where the Cowboys are at. I figured they would hit 24 or 20-27, 20-28, some point probably in the third quarter. So they did it a little bit earlier, but, kind of assumed that the Raiders would get in with at least a touchdown, at some point by at least the third quarter. But, it's like they don't really have too many options. Geno's not very trustworthy. Offensive line's not very good for the Raiders. You don't have Jacoby Myers anymore. It's like you got Tucker, Lockett, who can get you a few first downs, but really your only home run threats are Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, but they even can't really get loose if the offensive line isn't doing their job. And, you're able to get a few catches here, a few runs here, a few runs there, but are they able to get loose for like a 30-yard, breakaway touchdown? They haven't been able to do it just yet. Minnie in the building. How are you? How'd you do in fantasy this week? How's bartending this week as well? And we got first down and 10 at the Vegas 30. And I think it also proves that Dak is a lot better than people want to give him credit for. Yeah, he's on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys always get the short end of the stick. A lot of their fan base is still stuck in the 90s with, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Leon Lett, Deion Sanders. I get it. But, if Dak was on another team, again, he plays more times than not like he's a top 10 quarterback, in the league. And, he's a guy that I would want on my team more than, some of the other guys that are floating around in the league, He is criminally underrated, and again, if he was on another team, he probably wouldn't get as much hate and whatnot. But I guess anytime you're on the Cowboys, that's something that you're going to have to accept, with the team's history and whatnot. And obviously Jerry Jones probably being the worst owner in sports doesn't help either. Floater and almost intercepted. Wow. Bland is all over the place, but I think that's going to be defensive holding there. Vidal and Jacobs. Nice. Hopefully you have some bench pieces that can step up, or, people on the wire that you'll be able to pick up and replace. First down and 10, shotgun set. Geno steps out of the pocket, looking deep, got a man. Nice catch. Tucker, first down, Raiders. Nice job by Trey Tucker there. Yeah, tough loss for Tampa, but a really fun game to watch. Back and forth with Baker and Josh Allen. And the Buccaneers played the Rams, and, probably will be, back and forth. Obviously, the Rams defense is very, very good. So I don't expect to win that game, but if we somehow do, that could springboard us, because we have an easy schedule the rest of the way. And, we could end up going 12-5 or 13-4. After this Rams game, we have the Cardinals, the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Dolphins, and the Panthers. So, even with all the injuries that we've had to Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, we should be able to win the rest of the games, besides maybe that Ram game that's coming up this Sunday. But if we win the Ram game, we could win 7 in a row and then finish 13-4. And if we can get our other starters healthy at that point, we could make a deep run at the NFC Championship game. But, we lack pass rushers, and that's a glaring need for the Tampa Bay defense. And we haven't been really playing very good defense overall in the run game or in the passing game. Defense kind of stinks right now, unfortunately. Geno, and a little check down there. And timeout is called by the Raiders. Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, he should be starting for the Buccaneers at the moment, over Rachaad White. But, sometimes it's guys that have been there a little bit longer. But I think Tucker gives you, more oomph, in every carry. And you have a little bit more confidence. He kind of runs like a Mike Allstott. Now, Rachaad White, he kind of dances around and he'll get you some yards. And, we haven't had Bucky Irving since week 3. That's like the Lions not having Jahmyr Gibbs. It's a huge loss. And no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, and no Jalen McMillan. It's like literally we have our top 3 receivers out, our number 1 running back out, offensive lineman injured, and our secondary banged up. And on top of that, the guys that we do have healthy can't tackle. Not ideal, but we're still a playoff team. And, hopefully we'll get better as the season goes on. Second down and 3, Geno towards the sideline, incomplete. Mayer, the intended tight end. Michael Mayer, Notre Dame. Third down and 3 at the Dallas 28. Yeah, I do like Tucker, though. He could have scored 4 times in that game, but, Baker can only do so much. And I do love Baker Mayfield through and through. But if the defense can't get better, we're going to make the playoffs and get bumped in the first round. And I would love for us to go a little bit deeper, but it kind of feels like the Eagles and Rams are the best in the NFC, and then it's everyone else. Seahawks, Buccaneers, Bears, Packers, everyone else is kind of in that same group after that. And Raheem Mostert takes that screen, and another timeout is called. You got to get some kind of score here, Raiders. And the Raiders get the ball in the second half. So getting points here and scoring on the first drive in the third quarter would be very very important to do at this point. First down and 10 at the Dallas 25. I mean, they have options, but can the offensive line block long enough? That's the question. Shotgun set. Dallas only bringing 4, but getting so much pressure on Geno, just bringing 4 guys. And that should be an incomplete pass there. They're running towards it like it's a fumble. But it might be grounding on Geno, though. Wow, no flag, huh? Geno getting hit on the front and the back, huh? Little sandwich action there. Quinnen Williams. Now the Jets getting rid of all their top-tier talent on defense. Sauce going to the Colts. Quinnen Williams going to the Cowboys. Second down and 10 at the Dallas 25. Throw the damn ball to Brock Bowers, damn it. Geno, flag on the play, and throw to the sideline, incomplete. And that might be offsides on the defense. That'll move them 5 yards closer. Second down and 5 at the Dallas 20. And again, get a touchdown here. You're still going to lose, but at least it'll make the game more exciting. All right, we got 14 seconds left here before halftime. 24-6 Cowboy lead. And it's been really the Dak Prescott show. And again, even though they're 3-5-1, they look like a 5-4 team. And the Raiders are 2-7, and they look like it. Second down and 5. Shotgun set. Geno. And pressure comes, and he just throws it out of bounds, incomplete. Third down and 5. And especially when you know your offensive line isn't that good, you know, you can't wait for plays to develop downfield because you're not going to be able to go through your progressions. You're going to have to do screen passes, you know, hitch routes, crossing routes, something simple and right in front of the quarterback. You know, you're not going to be able to wait for that post to develop, you know, where it's going to take 3, 4, 5 seconds of pass protection by the O-line. The O-line isn't good enough against this Dallas D-line. Third down and 5, and timeout Cowboys. All right, come on, Raiders. We know that, you know, you're a struggling franchise. And obviously Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly obviously don't have their, you know, their guys, you know, just yet. But you got to slowly but surely try to build this. And Geno, shotgun set, pass to Bowers, and one-on-one, incomplete. Good coverage there by the Cowboys. Carlson and company. And now the field goal unit will come out, and hopefully they'll at least make the field goal to make it 24-9. Field goal is up and good. 24-9 Cowboys. And then now we're off to halftime. And I love the one thing I love about the NFL is halftime's only like 12 minutes, you know, which is great. So it goes by pretty quick. You're not sitting there for 20, 25 minutes, just enough time for them to change cleats, have a quick, you know, sip of Gatorade, you know, go over a quick game plan in the second half. And then by the time you go to the bathroom and do all those things, you're right back out for the second half. So we'll see if they go over some of the highlights of maybe some of the other games as well. And the Raiders get the second half kickoff. So if they can get a touchdown off the second half kickoff and it's 24-16, they'll be right back in it. tied with most in the NFL, 5th game trailing by double digits at halftime. And again, when you end up taking a job of a team where you're at the bottom, it's hard to be able to climb, up into the standings, with other teams that are in the division that are very competitive. And again, the Chiefs are obviously struggling. Chargers lost Alton Slater, but Herbert is still the man. And obviously the Broncos are the best team in the NFL, best defense in the NFL with Nick Bonito. Bo Nix is the man. And even though it may not always be pretty on offense for the Broncos, this could be the year that possibly Denver not only makes the AFC Championship game, but could potentially represent the AFC. But the Patriots, the Colts, the Ravens, and a few other teams will have something to say about it before we get to that point. 10 minutes to go here before halftime is up. 24-9, Cowboy lead here at the half. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy. Three and 1 in the last 4 games against the Raiders. George Pickens enjoying his time in Dallas. Toby in the building, what's good? Got 9 minutes to go here before halftime is up. Who do you have left? You need a Bowers TD. You might be able to get it. Someone's going to get, you got to think there might be 1 TD for the Raiders, maybe 2 at the most, but realistically might be only 1, with some like field goals and whatnot. But, who's going to get it? Tucker, Lockett, Bowers, or Genty? You would have to assume Genty and Bowers are at the top of the list and Tucker as well. But, they've had a hard time being able to get enough time for Geno to get Bowers the ball. So, the guy's got CD. Oh, you might be done. The CD might end up scoring again in the second half. So that's tough. It's like almost you need Bowers to score twice and CD not to score any more. But we'll see. I mean, it's 24-9. Both defenses, aren't the greatest. So you just got to be able to get into a little bit of a rhythm here. And obviously getting the field goal by the Raiders there late, it's not what they, essentially wanted. But if they can come out with a touchdown right out of the, third quarter, right out of the gate, and they can get it to 24-16, it's not like they're going to come back and win, but at least they can make it interesting and kind of go back and forth. I mean, the best case scenario for the Raiders to get back in it, they score a touchdown on the first drive and they get a turnover, score again, and then, essentially we'll have almost a tie game at that point. But what are the chances that the Raiders offense and defense does that? Probably not very likely. So. But if you're just tuning in, field goal to start off the game by the Raiders, Cowboys, and Raiders in the first quarter. Then you had a CeeDee Lamb touchdown from Dak in the second, as well as a Jake Ferguson touchdown on 4th down and 1. And then George Pickens, obviously, with a nice touchdown from Dak as well. Dak is very underrated. Again, he's a guy that gets criticized a lot. And, just because he's on the Cowboys, but he's better than quite a few quarterbacks in the league. Of course, he's not going to be chosen over guys like Josh Allen or Lamar, in that realm, but again, for the second tier quarterback, he's actually one of the best, and again, in that kind of Jordan Love, Dak, in that kind of category underneath, the top tier guys where you have, guys that are going to be, I don't know, maybe ranked 8th through, 14. There's going to be some movement there. And, obviously if Dak was terrible, he wouldn't be able to, if Dak was truly terrible, he would be playing more like Geno, and obviously Dak can still throw touchdown passes. He's obviously been blessed with some good receivers, to work with and whatnot, like CeeDee Lamb, and Pickens has been pretty good, coming in, and he's been able to throw touchdown passes to lower name guys like Brandon Cooks and a few role players in the past as well. But, but really, it's like they don't have enough defense, and obviously coaching, could be better, as well as the play calling. Anytime you end up having an owner that wants to be the face of the franchise over the coach and the quarterback, that's a problem. So. Yeah, I think Trevor, again, normally is ranked, somewhere between 11 and 18, out of the, 32 quarterbacks. Sometimes he'll play like a top 10 quarterback, and other times he'll play like a top 15 or top 20, player. And, I feel like if Trevor ended up having, like, let's say if Trevor was on the Niners, you would get more out of him there with better coaching and better supporting cast. But again, if Trevor continues to stay on the Jags with this extension, and you have coaching that might be questionable, coordinators that are questionable, and then obviously not the right players around him, then he's going to, kind of hit his ceiling, so to speak. The only way to get Trevor to get to the next level is either go to a team like the Niners, or the Rams, where they can develop him to be the number 1 pick that he was, or, things kind of stay similar to what you have with Jacksonville, unless you guys can get, better draft picks, better free agents, better coaching, and better coordinators to take his game to the next level. So, because I think if you put him on the Niners or the Rams, if he was on one of those teams, he would be a top 10 quarterback in this league, but only if he went to teams like that. That would be the only way you're going to get Trevor to be known as like a top 10 quarterback. But he can still be efficient, but again, he still needs quite a ways to go. Got 4 minutes left before we get into the second half. Yeah, the throw wasn't really on though either. I mean, even if he would have got his hand on it, he wasn't going to come down with it. So. I think I had the hardest 2-month stretch out of any team in the NFL this year. Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, all tough, right? Saints, easy. And then Patriots, Bills, Rams. Who the hell put that schedule together? You know what I mean? Like, and on top of that, no Bucky Irving, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, injuries on the O-line and in the secondary. And then we can't tackle. It's like we got Vita Vea, Levante David, and Antoine Winfield Jr., but, you can't just rely on 3 guys out of 11 on D. And I've been watching football, since the mid-'80s, and I've been following the Buccaneers, for 30 years. I don't think I've ever seen a schedule that hard in a 2-month stretch. But after we get past the Rams on Sunday Night Football, it gets incredibly easy. This is the schedule for the Buccaneers the rest of the way. Versus the Cardinals, versus the Saints, versus the Falcons, versus the Panthers, versus the Dolphins, and versus the Panthers. We literally could go 6-0 in that last stretch. And hopefully we can compete with the Rams. And if we win that, that would be a big upset, considering how great the Rams have been playing lately. And then we could, potentially be 12-5 or 13-4. And hopefully, towards the end of the year, that's when we can get some of our guys back, like Bucky and Godwin, because Evans, I mean, we may not even see him, for the rest of the year, but we'll see where it goes. Looking forward to the easier schedule, but again, then also you have a chance of playing down to the competition, and when you play down to the competition, sometimes bad shit happens. But I love Baker Mayfield, and as long as I have Baker, I know I have a chance in every game, and Baker hasn't lost us games, our defense has. So Cardinals and Titans, those are winnable games for you, for sure. But definitely an insane schedule for the Buccaneers since week 4. Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, Saints, Patriots, Bills, Rams. Jesus Christ. Crazy. But at least we're almost done with it, and we only got one game left. And again, the Rams, arguably might be the best team in the NFC right now. Eagles are the champs, but again, their offense isn't as good as it was last year. Saquon, A.J. Brown, it just feels like it's a little sluggish. The defense and special teams is awesome for the Eagles, but that offense doesn't feel the same. They feel like, they're beatable. But with the Rams, Stafford's bad back. We thought maybe he would be retired by now, at some point. And I think in the last 7 games, he's 22 touchdowns and no picks, something crazy like that. So, we'll see how Matthew Stafford plays moving forward. He's got 21 touchdowns and 2 picks. That's fucking insane. Oh my goodness. This is wild. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6, 7, 12, 12, 16, 20. 22 touchdowns and no picks in the last 7 games. Are you fucking kidding me? Stafford's the MVP right now. That's an insane run. I'm looking at Stafford's numbers right now to see how insane he actually has been. The defense is top tier, and he had 1 touchdown, no picks in game 1 against the Texans, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick against the Titans, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick against the Eagles in week 3, and hasn't had an interception since. 3 touchdowns against the Colts, 3 touchdowns against the Niners, 1 against the Ravens, 5 against your Jags, 4 against the Saints, 4 against the Niners, and 2 against Seattle. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a minute. That is crazy. 22 touchdowns and no picks in 7 fucking games in the NFL. Wow. All right, we're just about to get into the third quarter. And that's everything that you would want. Devontae Adams on one side, Puka Nacua on the other, Kyron Williams at running back, good offensive line, great defense with Jared Verse. And the Rams almost beat the Eagles in the playoffs last year. Could this be the year that we get the Rams and the Broncos in the Super Bowl? Defense first could happen. I mean, the Rams were very close last year. Broncos are quite a bit better than they were last year as well. We still got, another month and a half to go, but we could end up having kind of a weird matchup in the Super Bowl. I don't think anyone would really anticipate, a Rams Broncos. That might not sell the most tickets, but again, if those are the 2 teams that get there, they'll put on a show. And Aubrey with a 57-yard kick, 24-yard return, first down and 10 at the Vegas 32. All right, let's get some more offense before this game is over. And again, that's the one benefit when you have 2 bad teams with bad defenses, points get scored. It's like you have great defense, at times with the Lions and traditionally by the Eagles, but that offense didn't really do a whole lot, for Detroit. And again, it shows you if you don't got a good offensive coordinator, and they end up going somewhere else, like the Chicago Bears, then you'll definitely feel it, when you're calling plays there for Detroit. Loss of 3 for Agenti there. Great coverage by the Cowboys. Second down and 13 at the Vegas 29. Nice. Second down and 13. Shotgun set. Gino to Lockett. And a nice 7-yard gain there. Stewart with the coverage and the tackle for the Cowboys. Third down and 6 at the Vegas 36. 4 rashes in the first half, fewest since 2008. And when you drafted Genty to be the bell cow, obviously they got Chip as offensive coordinator, but again, he knows that the offensive line isn't very good. And again, he was the reason Ryan Day ended up winning a championship with the Buckeyes last year. And to go from that type of offense, with Will Howard and company and Jeremiah Smith, and Trayvon Henderson to what you have to work with the Geno and the Raiders, it's a pretty big downgrade. Shitty pass there. And Bland in great coverage. I mean, did he not see Bland there? Golly. Geno, you might need glasses. 4th down and 6 at the Vegas 36. And Cole with the punt, 64 yards, ends up being a touchback. Bowman Moyer, I see you. 1st down and 10 there for the Cowboys on the Dallas 20. And I would not be shocked if they march the field and score. It's a tough schedule, Toby. Cardinals, Titans is winnable, but Colts, that's probably an L. Jets could be a win. Broncos, that's an L. Colts, again, might be an L. And then Titans could be a win. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You might have 4 more wins, but you're probably not beating the Colts, the Broncos, in that last, 6, 7 games. So, but you never know. Anything can happen, especially when you're a divisional opponent. If you were to split with the Colts, obviously Trevor would have to play great and your defense would have to step up as well. You have to force a lot of turnovers to beat Daniel Jones. And going against the best running back in the league, that will not be easy to stop. 1st down and 10 at the Dallas 20, 13-26 left in the 3rd quarter. It's been all Dallas all day, and I'm just hoping that the Raiders can get a touchdown or 2 before this game is over to make it a little bit more competitive. Dallas still pacing for 40+. Raiders pacing for 17 or less, unless they can get something cooking here sooner than later. Yeah, you can be great at the run, but can you be great against the best running back in the league? I mean, there was a lot of teams that were great against the run and couldn't stop Saquon last year. And, JT is doing things like Saquon did last year and in some games even better. So we will see. I will be paying attention to the Colts and the Jags in the few weeks ahead and see how you guys play each other. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. 24-9 Cowboy lead here in the 3rd quarter. Cowboys and Raiders. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy. And again, it's crazy, how a Cowboy Raider game with 2 bad teams would be more entertaining than the Eagles and Lions game last night, but here we are. And sometimes teams that don't have good defense but can score, on offense, will lead to some magic, for at least one team before this, game is over. Cowboys need a better running back than Javonte Williams, though. I'll tell you that. The whole Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, project that they had for a few years didn't really work out to their liking, but Javonte is even worse than those two. 6-yard run there by Javonte Williams. 2nd down and 4 at the Dallas 26. But I do think Pickens was a good fit, to fill in as another receiver for CD, and Ferguson is underrated at tight end. And Dak is incredibly underrated, for a guy that always gets shit on because he's just on the Cowboys. That's more of a Jerry Jones problem than a Dak problem. But I like Dak. I think that he's criminally underrated. And again, I wouldn't take Dak over Baker Mayfield, but again, I think that, Dak would be a guy that I would, at this point, if I didn't have Baker Mayfield, would I like Dak on the Buccaneers? Yeah, I think that he would actually play well there, and again, it's just that he gets a lot of hate for being, on the Cowboys. There's not too many pieces that don't really get a whole lot of hate. Maybe CD Lamb might be the only guy that's like universally loved by anybody anywhere. He's a guy that could play on any team. Facts. And obviously Pickens has kind of an attitude issue, but, he does produce. He is an athlete. And a 2-yard run there up the middle by Javonte Williams. Butler and Booker with the coverage and the tackle. Second down and 8 at the Dallas 33. Less than 12 minutes to go here in the third quarter. 24-9, Cowboy lead. Yeah, Cowboys and Bengals, very similar. Offense, no defense. But again, Dallas does have a few defensive players. They just got Quinnen Williams, obviously, when the Jets dumped him to Dallas, and obviously dumped Sauce Gardner to the Colts. They want those draft picks, but we'll see if that works out. Maybe the smartest things the Jets did was bench Justin Fields for Tyrod Taylor. And a little check down there by Dak to Ferg. 4-yard gain. Third down and 4 at the Dallas 37. Devin White with the tackle there. And Devin has played pretty good for the Raiders, and good for him. Maybe he's starting to enjoy football again. Really wish that he was still on the Buccaneers. That was, a key piece in the Super Bowl run. If we didn't have Devin White, we wouldn't have got to the Super Bowl, let alone won it. Dak, short middle to Pickens, and runs past a defender, jukes another. Wow, so slippery, George Pickens. First down, Cowboys. We damn boys, move the chains. Chief, I'm glad you came in a little bit earlier instead of literally like 10 seconds before the stream ended yesterday. But again, when you look at this matchup on paper, a lot of people are like, this isn't really something I want to watch. But after watching good teams play and kind of underwhelm like the Eagles and the Lions, I actually was looking forward to this matchup and thought this would be a funner game to call and watch. And guess what? It is. Hope you're doing good, my guy. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Nice pass by Dak Prescott there to Lipke. And that's a first down, Cowboys. We damn boys, move the chains. How are you holding up with the Chiefs struggles this year? Are you guys kind of in denial mode? After being able to win in one-score games, typically being undefeated or like only losing like a game, and then now this year not able to win any games really within one score. And that's really the difference between the Chiefs, being a 7-3, 8-2 team like normal, and being 5-5, just not being able to win those one-score games, self-inflicted wounds with bad penalties. And just the offense and defense haven't been as good as they have been in traditional years. You guys could still make a wild card, but again, there's definitely been a lot of peaks and valleys and ups and downs. And I think the reality is starting to hit Chief fans that, that run of Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones and Spags and Andy Reid is starting to come to an end, and then you're going to have to rebuild and retool to hopefully have one more last run with Mahomes and Kelsey before it's over, but a lot of things have to happen in the next few years for them to get back to being the Chief team that they were, even just last year. And then the year before that. 4-yard run there by Davis. First down, Cowboys. Well, you're going to run the ball no matter what in the third quarter or fourth quarter when you're up. That's, the golden rule for any NFL coach. When you're up in the second half, you run the ball, you bleed the clock, especially when you have the lead. I mean, it doesn't have to be a blowout to run the ball to bleed the clock. You can be up by a touchdown, or 10 points and bleed the clock. Dak. Play action bootleg, check down, and Ferguson with no gain. Second down and 10 at the Vegas 20. Yeah, and it feels like even though the Chargers lost Slater and Alt on the line, they have a better team this year, and maybe it's, a blessing in disguise, maybe it ends up being something where you guys end up getting some amazing draft picks and you miss the playoffs, but then you end up, retooling and getting back to being a playoff team next year. Sometimes you got to take a step backwards to go 10 steps forward. So Prescott short middle to George Pickens, who's been hot, baby. 17 yards. They don't know how to tackle George, and he's down to the 3. And Davis for no gain, 2nd and goal at the Vegas 3. And then at some point, you can run the football with Dak. If you run an RPO with Dak and he keeps it, he'll walk into the end zone. You know, again, Dak is a guy that likes to be able to throw first and run second. But again, you have to be creative here. And again, you can go to Ferg. You could end up going to CD. You can go to Pickens. Pickens obviously has been lights out in this game. Nice chemistry with Dak and Pickens. Dak and CD, Dak and Ferg. And obviously we've seen touchdowns by all three. Let them know. 26 more to get to 50. Every dollar counts, every like, every sub, every view. 2nd and goal here at the 2, and it just feels like they are moments away from scoring unless Max Crosby can find a way to make a play to stop them. And nope, he cannot. Dak, Flornay, touchdown, Cowboys. We damn boys. And the Cowboys making the Raiders look like a very bad team, because guess what? They are. The Cowboys are 3-5-1, but they're playing like a 5-4 team. They really are. And then the Raiders are 2-7, but who the hell did they beat? The way that the Raiders are playing football right now, it's like I don't even know if they could beat the Jets, or one of the bottom feeder teams. I mean, are the Raiders the worst team in football? Could be. Extra point is up and good. 31-9. At least I got my wish of at least one team in the mid-20s, and they exceeded that. But then we have another team that's only at 9. So, best case scenario for the Raiders the rest of the way, maybe getting to 19, 20 if they go for 2, but that might be best case scenario, but I don't even know if they can do that. Man, Raiders look terrible. Yeah. Well, again, it's like Mahomes isn't playing great ball. The running game and the passing game are nowhere near what we're used to. Injuries have been a factor. Defense, hasn't been the greatest. Lots of penalties, from the games that I've watched. And sometimes, you're the king of the castle and you're dominant like the Patriots and the Chiefs. But at some point, even Brady and Mahomes, you're human, and, it was like the year before Brady went to, the Buccaneers. People were questioning if Brady could still do it, but he wasn't really working with a whole lot, in almost all of Brady's career. He was working with a lot of scrubs, besides Gronk. Besides, Welker and Edelman, and, you had a few guys, Randy Moss, but again, if you go back to some of the earlier years, again, he wasn't really working with like top tier guys at wide receiver or at running back for that matter, but he was still finding ways to, win games, not turn the football over, run the ball efficiently, have great defense, great coaching, great coordinators, and they found a way to get it done. And then obviously going to the Buccaneers, that opened up the most talent that he's ever had with Godwin and Evans and whatnot. And obviously year 1, we won the Super Bowl. So who needs out for the Chiefs? Your offensive coordinator. See ya. And I don't know why they've hung on to him for so many years. Get his ass out of there. Yeah. And Chiefs are normally known for defense like the Buccaneers, and we can't fucking play D this year. It stinks, dude. Like, we can't tackle. We can't stop the run. We can't stop the pass. And it's great to have Baker, but we have no Bucky Irving, no Evans, no Godwin, injuries on the O-line, injuries in the secondary. It's cool that we got Vita Vea, Levante David, and Antoine Winfield Jr. He might be the best safety in the league, but 3 guys out of 11 ain't going to win a game for you. It's like you need more depth out of your role players. And, I know you can feel that statement as well. You like a few guys on the D, you like some of the guys on the O, but again, they're not playing together. And, the frustration is building over. And it's very weird to see the Chiefs at like a 500 record. But again, if you guys don't make the playoffs, which it doesn't look like you guys are unless other teams get hurt, maybe it could be a blessing in disguise. You go a little bit higher in the draft, pick up a player that maybe you would have never have had access to, and maybe that's the guy that, could be the impact guy like a Tyreek, moving forward. so there might be some benefit of not making the playoffs this year. Yeah, Nagy's got to go. Nagy should have already been replaced years ago. But now, if you guys miss the playoffs, maybe that'll give you guys a reason to give him the boot. And Reed is going to be stubborn, because he's got the reputation of being a winner. But even with Reed, you got to be able to understand sometimes change is good. Geno Smith to Genty, 5-yard pass, 2nd down and 5 at the Vegas 43. Shotgun set. And again, we got the Buccaneers and Rams on Sunday night, and then the Panthers and Niners on Monday night. I'm really looking forward to both of those games just because, you don't see the Buccaneers on primetime often, and you really don't see the Panthers on primetime. And I think that Niner game is a good challenge for them. And the Panthers have been playing good ball with Bryce Young as of late. So it's kind of interesting to be able to see some NFC South, teams on back-to-back days. But I think that's going to be a good game on Sunday and Monday. 4-yard pass from Geno to Mayer. Prospect there from Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Quinnen Williams from the Jets, now on the Cowboys with the tackle. 3rd down and 1 at the Vegas 47. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Like Steelers probably won't make it. You guys probably won't make it, but, you never know. There's still a lot of season to go. And if there ends up being any major injuries to quarterbacks or any key positions, anything could happen. Damn, 15 third downs. That's insane. And that's false start on the Raiders. That's insult to injury. They don't even have their best offensive lineman. They only really have like one really stud, and Miller's been injured. 3rd down and 6, 4-yard pass there from Geno to Bowers. Bland in coverage. Bland is a really good defender for the Cowboys. 4th down and 1 at the Vegas 47. And obviously watching, the Bucs, we don't have any pass rushers. We need some Simeon Rice type of players. And again, if we don't end up getting a good pass rusher in the near future, we're never going to be able to make that deep run for Baker. And, I want Baker to be able to bake. But, based on how we've been playing lately, even if we end up winning the last 6-7 games, we could get bounced in that first round. And, I have dreams for us to be able to make the NFC Championship game, but, the Rams and the Eagles are the best teams, and then it's everyone else. Seahawks, Bears, Buccaneers, Packers are kind of all on that second tier, where sometimes you play good, but sometimes you play like shit, for obvious reasons. So, and then you got the Broncos, the Pats, and the Colts at the top, the Bills and the Ravens starting to get it together, and then you got kind of the rest. Chargers still might end up making it, but, we'll see where it all kind of plays out. Eric Berry. What a stud. I remember when he did get sick back in the day. .411 left in the third quarter, 31-9 Cowboys. And tomorrow we're going to be doing the Blazers and the Suns. It'll be a late stream, 8 o'clock Pacific. And then on Wednesday, we'll be doing Blazers and Bulls. And on Thursday, we'll be doing the Texans and the Bills. CJ Stroud, I don't know if we'll be available for that or not. We'll find out. And then obviously, I haven't got the chance to see the schedule on Friday, which might be something I need to look into here. When the Blazers play the Warriors on Friday, so it is possible that we could do 3 Blazer streams this week. Let me me look to see if there's anything on the college football side on a Friday. And we'll be doing Oregon and USC. Both teams are ranked on Saturday. We only have 2 games left in the college football regular season. That'll be at 12:30 on CBS. 8-2 USC, 9-1 Oregon. That'll be awesome. And then Sunday will be Sunday Night Football, Buccaneers and Rams. And let's take a look to see what games. Let me go back to college football. Fourth down and 1. Genty with a nice jump cut. First down, Raiders. What kind of matchups do we have on the NFL this weekend? Steelers, Bears. That's a good challenge for Chicago at home. Pats, Bengals. Giants, Lions. Vikings, Packers. Seahawks, Titans. Colts, Chiefs. That'll be a tough one for you for Chief will Chief. Jets, Ravens. Browns, Raiders. Jags, Cardinals. Eagles, Cowboys. Falcons, Saints. Bucks, Rams. And then Panthers, Niners. And Gino with a little fake. Mayer towards that sideline, pushed out of bounds. 8-yard gain. Second down and 2 at the Dallas 43. Yeah. I mean, it's cool to be optimistic, but it's also, realistic based on how Denver, has played, and the Colts and the Patriots and how well-rounded those teams are, Is it possible, like the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills, could end up, getting things together late? They have the playoff experience, but, we'll see how it ends up turning out for those 3 teams that normally are at the top. And a nice little screen pass from Gino to Trey Tucker. First down, Raiders. Gino passing complete to Brock Bowers. Second down and 10 at the Dallas 31. Now let's get the Raiders in the end zone. I mean, they're going to lose this game. There's no doubt about that, but I would love to see the Raiders get to at least 20 points if possible. Get at least a touchdown and a field goal, or a touchdown and 2 field goals, or 2 touchdowns before it's over, but I'm not sure if the Dallas D will allow it, even though the Dallas D isn't really the greatest either, but... And a 1-yard run there by Raheem Mostert, the former Niner and Dolphin. 1-yard gain. Houston with the coverage and tackle. Third down and 9 at the Dallas 30. Let them know. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. You haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. I appreciate it. I can only imagine how many more amazing beats he'll have by the time Mariner season starts. Between now, the end of November till March, could end up having another 20, 30, 40, by that time, maybe even more than that. So Geno Smith. Lockett is there. Nice catch. First down, Raiders. And now Geno starting to get a little bit of rhythm with his former teammate in Seattle, Tyler. Get to the door and Lockett. Move the chains. First down, Raiders. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, I never really get super excited, to anticipate something. But with his beats that come out, it's like me waiting for Stranger Things 5 to come, waiting for something that I know I'm going to love and just having that anticipation. But instead of having to wait years and years on Stranger Things, we can get something new almost every day, which is, obviously, great work ethic from him. And a loss of 1 by Genty. Kenny Clark with the tackle. 2nd down and 11 at the Dallas 20. Mike in the building, what's good? The Josh Naylor deal is final, and 5 years, less than $100 million. So we left about $7-8 million on the board for maybe Polo. Gino ain't coming back, but maybe we can get Polo to come back. And again, Naylor could have got 5 years, $100 million, 5 years, $120 million. So to get him on a little bit of a discount, hopefully we'll be able to sign another player with that extra $7-8 million that was left on the board. Gino on 2nd down and 11, getting tripped from behind. And now that is 3rd down and 9 by Jadeveon Clowney with the tackle. Jadeveon Clowney still fucking in the league. That's crazy. And now we go to the 4th quarter. We got 15 minutes to go for the Raiders to try to get 11 points to get to 20. Can they do it? Who knows? And the Cowboys are still pacing for 40 plus. And we'll see if Dak can pour it on. And all Naylor had to do is, pass the physical, which we knew he would. And again, just had a baby, loves Seattle, loves the culture, loves the Kraken, the Sonics, everything that, has to do with, Seattle Hawks. And it's cool to be able to have a guy, embrace the city, and again, he had a lot of people reaching out, and, the Seattle fan base for the Mariners is one of the best in baseball. And again, we haven't had too many guys as free agents, or guys that we picked up at the trade deadline that can actually hit over 300 in Seattle. It's the hardest ballpark to hit at. And Naylor was able to hit 300, 350 pretty much, the whole way. And again, you can't let a guy like that go. And thankfully, he has, good friendships here. And we're going to have him for the next 5 years, and you got to think Naylor with Julio and Cal. Again, now we still got to work out, what we're going to be doing at second base and third base. And, we got Harry Ford filling in for Garver. Garver's gone. But again, Cole Young, Ben Williamson, Colt Emerson, are those guys going to be good enough to start? Maybe some of them, but maybe not all of them. So again, we are going to have to upgrade the roster. And, again, if we have to use Cole and Ben, for a little bit, that's fine. But again, we still are going to need to keep adding pieces to the roster, especially if Gino is gone, which, I don't think he'll be back, but hopefully we get Polo back on the team. As long as Polo doesn't want too much money, I think Polo would be definitely more valuable, even though he's kind of a defensive liability, like Gino. But again, Gino, will get you home runs, but he strikes out a lot and his defense isn't as good. Ben obviously is great at defense. We just need Ben to turn into a player that can hit, 14 to 20 home runs in a season. And if he can do that, that'll be good enough for third base. But you still would like to have someone that could hit, 20 to 30 home runs at third. But, who knows? Maybe, maybe Ben is a guy that will only hit, 5 to 12 home runs. But, we can hope that some of these guys will get a little bit better. And Gino short middle to Bowers for 6 yards, 4th down and 4 at the Dallas 13. And obviously we'll have goals to try to win the AL West again. But again, we're still going to have to make moves in the offseason, and we're going to have to beef up the bullpen, and we're going to have to be buyers at the deadline again. We're going to have to add on to our roster to make that big leap next year. But definitely exciting to have someone that's good at offense, defense, stealing bags, and has a great attitude in Josh Naylor. Probably the best, guy that we've signed, to the Mariners in a long, long, long time. And Geno Smith scrambles towards that left side for 7 yards. 1st down, Raiders. And again, when things get a little bleak, you got to run with your quarterback with Dak and Geno. Great job there by Geno. 4 wide receivers set on the audible on the line. And now it's 1st and goal at the 6. Maybe they can get Genty or Bowers in the end zone now, or Tucker. Could have dove head first, but might have gotten popped. So decides to slide with that baseball slide to be safe. Geno doesn't want no CTE. 1st and goal at the Dallas 6. Great position here for Bowers or Genty to get in the end zone. 24 for 38, 223 yards, 1 interception. Gino's looking for his first touchdown of the night. And there it is, touchdown, Gino to Trey Tucker, screen pass, and he gets in. There it is. Tucker is his number one option, and he gets in the end zone. Now, they're still going to lose, but at least it's making it a little bit more interesting. And, if they keep going like this, the Raiders will get into the 20s, and Cowboys might get into the 40s. There we go. Much more entertaining of a matchup than that Eagles-Lions game, which is crazy to say, but it is true. Sometimes having defense too good can make a game a little boring, especially if you're not able to get points on the other end. Extra point is up and good by Carlson. 31-16. Cowboys up on the Raiders. A 15-point lead by the Cowboys as we go to a commercial break. 13:22 left in the fourth quarter. Looking to see if there's anything matchup-wise for the college football that would be worth on Friday, but there isn't. So we're going to be doing Blazers on Tuesday, Blazers versus the Suns, Blazers versus Bulls on Wednesday, and Thursday night football, which will be the Texans and the Bills. And then Friday we'll be doing Blazers versus the Warriors. And then Saturday, USC and Oregon, both ranked in the top 25 in the polls. And then Sunday will be Buccaneers and Rams. And then Monday next week will be the Panthers and the Niners. So a little bit of NBA for half of the week, and then we'll be doing NFL and college football the rest of the way. That'll get us obviously until next Monday. And hopefully the Blazers will be able to compete as we go into a stretch, obviously, that they played really good early on, but kind of hit a little bit of a wall. But I'm hoping that they'll be able to get back on track. Yeah, unfortunately, I used to go to like 2 to 3 games a year, but now with the situation with my pup and just, finances, usually I only go once a year, traditionally with 4th of July with my best friend. But yeah, try to go as often as you can. I mean, I love it there. If I didn't live in Oregon, the only other place that I think I would enjoy living in is Seattle. To be close to watch the Mariners. If I lived in Seattle, I would, try to go pretty often and whatnot. But obviously, I got a responsibility here on YouTube to be able to hold it down as the #1 streamer for the Seattle Mariners moving forward. Turpin off the bounce. And a nice return there by Turpin. He's always got the speed. 39-yard return, first down and 10 at the Dallas 43. (31-16) Cowboys. And again, the 4th of July, has been pretty interesting the last few years. We got to see the Orioles 2 years ago when they were a playoff team. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates, even though we missed Skeens, by like a game or two. And then we got the Blue Jays on the 4th of July, I believe. So that's going to be an incredibly hot ticket. And again, after the Blue Jays and Mariners with this new rivalry that we have been able to have since 2022, it's going to be a real exciting matchup. Definitely we'll be trying to get a foul ball in that game. And Javonte Williams, a run for no gain. Max Crosby showing Javonte Williams who is the man. Third down and 7 at the Dallas 46. But I will be trying to call, pretty much every game besides the, maybe one game that I go to on the 4th of July. So 161 out of 162 regular season games is the goal, and playoffs. Third down and 7 at the Dallas 46. And it kind of makes you wonder with the Cowboys, why don't they use Turpin in the offense? I mean, he's got great speed on special teams. Why not use him with like a jet sweep or a reverse once in a while? Prescott passing complete to Turpin. We talk about Turpin getting involved, and what happens 30 seconds later, they go to Turpin, but not in the way that I wanted. They go do a little pass there. We need to see like a reverse or a jet sweep, and I guess they hurt us. They tried to go to Turpin as a receiver and incomplete. 4th down and 7 at the Dallas 46. The Sports Gods just letting us know that they are listening to the channel. Punt coming for the Cowboys. And Enga with the punt, 49 yards all the way back. And Tucker, loss of 3. Wow. They're on 1st down and 10 at the Vegas 2. Why would you grab that off the bounce? That is incredibly stupid by Tucker. What are you doing, Trey? Now you got Gino trying to get 98 yards to get a touchdown. Nothing wrong with going alone. It's like going to a movie or getting a meal by yourself. I feel like nowadays, with how everything is going in our world, sometimes peace of mind, is nice. And, sometimes you'll have someone that you can go with, and, sometimes being able to go by yourself, you can enjoy that time and space. I used to party a lot, but now it's like I pretty much, grind on the channel every day, spend time with my pup every day. And even with my best friend, I see him once a month, sometimes not even that. So, as you get older, you start to kind of appreciate your, peace of mind and whatnot. So 4 is a great amount to go to. Have you ever gotten close to getting a ball at a game? Changes your life forever once you get a ball, let me tell you. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a foul ball, a home run ball, or even a ball after the inning ends, that J.P. Crawford throws into the, Mariner crowd. Again, it's not easy to get a ball, but once you get one, man, it's exciting. I would really love to be able to get a cow ball at some point. And also I need to get a ball for my best friend as well. So, but I've been incredibly lucky, being able to get 5, 2 minor league AAA balls and 3 Mariner balls. So Aaron Judge, Julio Rodriguez, and Kike Hernandez. I would say that's a pretty awesome trifecta of baseballs to get. So, but Shohei Ohtani, Cal Raleigh, getting one of those baseballs would be sweet too. And I don't know if I'll ever get 2 in a year ever again. Julio's rookie year and Aaron Judge when he broke the home run record. 2022 was a very special year for me to get 2 baseballs in 1 year. And obviously last year I did not get a ball, but hopefully 4th of July against the Blue Jays will treat us right. Well, hopefully your health problems will not be as severe, and you'll be able to go to as many as you can. False start. And now it's 1st down and 11 at the Vegas 2. No surprise there, backed up into their own end zone. See if the Raiders can eventually get to at least 20 points or more before this game is up. They'll have a couple more drives. Uh-oh, safety. Genty. Uh-oh. 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a safety. Yum, 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 yum. Wow. 33-16 Cowboys. Especially when you get backed up on your own 1 or 2 yard line. You have to be very smart. Nice. Do you remember what player it was? Yeah, rest in peace to that pizza, but pizza is actually pretty good there. There's one pizza spot inside the stadium that's incredible. You get like your own personal pan of like 4 pieces of pizza, but they're like pretty good size. We did that last 4th of July. We usually like to experiment, with all the different options for food in and out of the stadium. But the pizza, is pretty good there. I mean, everything is pretty good there for the most part. Just kind of depends on your vibe and what you're feeling. Sometimes we'll be in like a hot dog mood, and it's better to get hot dogs outside of the stadium, where you can go get like an Ichiro dog or a Griffey dog. You get a hot dog, a chip, and a drink, and it's like $5. And it's like a massive hot dog that's like the size of 3. If you go into the stadium, it's a plain dog. You can get condiments in another area, and you're probably paying like $7-8 for a plain little hot dog, with some shit bun and, some shit hot dog, some like generic stuff. But, again, if you're hungry, and you're going to pay for it. So, yeah, your beer as well. Yeah, that happens though when, baseballs come into your area. But nothing is funner, like I love going to Ducks games, but I love going to Mariner games. Obviously, the baseball crowd compared to a basketball crowd for the Blazers, or a college football crowd like the Ducks, or an NFL crowd like the Hawks, they're all different types of people. Some people are going to be fans of, all of those things, but, the environment is much different. Football fans are more rowdy. Baseball fans are a little bit more, relaxed. But we'll get up for the big moments, and whatnot, little chest bumps, high fives and whatnot. Same thing goes with NBA fans as well. A little bit more reserved, but when big plays happen, you'll hear it. So I'm just a little disappointed that Wemby got hurt again. Me and my best friend got tickets to see Wemby 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row, he got hurt right before we were going to see him. Unbelievable, horrible timing. Wemby playing like the player of the year, and then all of a sudden gets hurt right before we go see him 2 years in a row. Brutal. Like the sports gods don't want us to see Wemby, but eventually we will. And good recovery there by Pickens. Yeah, I always get seats by first base or third base. Typically, off first base, like 15 to 20 rows back. That's the trick. You get, seats, 119 to like 121 on that section by the Mariners. And then about 15, 20 rows back, it's like a very, hot spot for foul balls typically in that general area. Because if you get too close, there'll be too many kids, that will be running up and whatnot, and you're not going to get a ball typically in the first like 5 rows. The seat will be great, but you're not getting a ball. So for us, we want to be able to try to get a ball and have good seats, and usually about 15 to 20 rows back is a sweet spot. I've gotten all 3 of my baseballs in that sweet spot. 2 on the Mariner side and 1 on the visiting side when we saw the Yankees, and I got an Aaron Judge ball. So, my results are not typical, but, there's little secrets to the trade. And we also get seats on the aisle, so that way I can run up and down, a few different, areas there where it's not just our row. I can go up and down, 4 rows above me, 4 rows below me without interrupting anybody, Handoff by Javonte Williams there, 3-yard gain. I did have a drunk guy try to box me out though. last 4th of July, but usually you're not going to have too many, bad fans and whatnot. Prescott short right to CD Lamb there for 6 yards. 3rd down and 1 at the Vegas 29. Less than 11 minutes to go. 33-16 Cowboys. Shotgun set. And that was a good pass there by Dak. Timeout Cowboys. Ruled down by contact. Let's see the replay here. CD. Yeah, CD down. Yeah, I love everything that Brooks comes up with. Again, I feel like a lot of his beats give you a feeling. They make you feel something, and that's when you have someone that is really doing something special. He doesn't, a lot of people that make beats, a lot of their stuff sounds the same. Or you get people that are like rappers and singers, a lot of their stuff kind of sounds the same, even though it's different. But with him, he is such a talented, artist, that he can pretty much come up with whatever way he's feeling for that day. And, I only have a fraction of stuff that we use here on the channel that I have access to, I try to choose the best sounding, beats based on sports, that we're doing. But there's a lot of stuff that is in his catalog that may not necessarily be sport, related, as far as the sound, but we have plenty of great music in the background, not only for Mariners, but anything that we do here. 5-yard run there by Lipke. 1st down and 10. We damn boys, blue the chains. Some stuff is a little bit slower pace. Some things a little bit more upbeat. I try to be able to, blend in a little bit of the slower stuff and a little bit of the faster pace stuff. Less than 9:35 to go here in the 4th quarter. 33-16 Cowboys. Dak, play action, and a little check down there. And Turpin catches it, no gain. Good defense there by the Raiders and Jamal Adams. 2nd down and 10 at the Las Vegas 24. $36 subs to go to 23,300. Man in motion. Berg. And a nice run up the middle as some of the Raider players are pointing like someone jumped early. And we got unnecessary roughness here, a 15-yard penalty on the Cowboys. Tyler Booker, what are you doing? First down and 10 now at the Vegas 26, 33-16 Cowboys. And even though the Cowboys are 3-5-1, they're playing like a 5-4 team, like a bubble, playoff team, even though they're not going to make the playoffs. But again, it definitely shows you how much better the Cowboys are than the Raiders in 2025. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Love supporting my friends that have dreams and goals. Can't wait to see where his music ends up going. Prescott, short left to Ferguson. 7-yard gain. 2nd down and 3 at the Vegas 19. Shotgun set here for Dak. That was a good stiff arm by Ferg on the previous play. And Javonte Williams runs to that right side for a yard. Max Crosby with the coverage. 3rd down and 2 at the Vegas 18. I know Dak gets criticized a lot, but I enjoy watching him quarterback. Over the years, even when, Jerry Jones, definitely, gives them kind of a black eye as being a terrible owner, wanting to have the camera time on him rather than the coach or Dak. But I've always thought Dak is, a very, very good quarterback, very underrated, gets a bad rap because he's on the Cowboys, but, could be great on almost any team in the NFL, 5-yard pass from Dak to CeeDee Lamb. 1st down and 10 at the Vegas 13. 1st down, Cowboys. We them boys, move the chains. Yeah, again, once our NFL teams start losing, the only thing that can cheer us up is if you got an NBA team or an NHL team that is starting to win and whatnot. So we'll be doing free Blazers streams on the channel this week, and hopefully the Blazers can win at least 2 out of 3. Hopefully all 3 out of 3. Again, it's going to be Suns tomorrow. That's not going to be easy. Fucking Bulls on Wednesday. That's not going to be easy. And fucking Warriors with Steph Curry. So on Friday. But we'll see how it all goes down. Hopefully we compete to the highest ability. We're young, but we're fun to watch. Pickens is showing a lot of potential with the Cowboys. I would agree with that. Obviously, if you have a quarterback that can get you the goddamn ball, right? Instead of having Kenny Pickett and all these other garbage QBs in Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers ain't gonna, get that job done. And, at some point, Big Bens don't grow on trees. And we know that the Steelers normally are known for developing some wide receivers, but it seems like, Pickens isn't, screaming on the sidelines like he was in Pittsburgh. So maybe a better place here, getting more opportunities in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb, especially when CeeDee went down with the injury. Then he was wide receiver 1, but now he's wide receiver 2, but still plays like a 1 with CeeDee Lamb. 4-yard pass from Dak to Span Ford. 3rd down and 2 at the Vegas 5. Yeah, Denny's an all-star this year. I mean, Shaden Sharp is a stud, right? Drew Holiday's playing great ball. We don't have Scoot or Dame. Klingon is a great defender. Tumani Kamara is a defensive player of the year. Jeremy Grant's coming off the bench scoring 20. We have a fun squad, and we haven't even got a chance to see Yang, the Chinese draft pick that we had that's like a shorter version of Yao Ming. We've had to send him to the G League to keep his reps up, but we're fun. We play defense and, we go after people, and it's nice to be able to see a team that is young that's fun to watch. So obviously if the Blazers were terrible and not fun to watch, I wouldn't be streaming them obviously on the channel. So 3rd down and 2, and Javonte Williams running up the middle for only a yard, and again, when they had Zeke and Tony Pollard, there would be times that the same type of thing would happen. Got to get a better running back. Yeah, me too. And even though the overall NBA sometimes pisses me off based on people's laziness and, sitting out too long with, injuries and everything else. But, with the Blazers, I don't really have anything, negative to say. I've been watching them since the 80s, and, they finally have put together a team that, fans can really enjoy game in and game out. And obviously getting Billups out of there, was a big distraction early, but we've moved past it at this point. So Gruden, Basacha, McDaniels, Pierce, and now Carroll. Just not good enough. Prescott passing complete to CeeDee Lamb. Do you watch every Heat game? And Prescott incomplete to CeeDee Lamb, and that is a turnover on downs on 4th down and 2. Just kick the field goal, Dallas. And he was wide open, and you can't even get that touchdown. That should have been an easy touchdown, walking in with nobody around CeeDee Lamb. Unbelievable. All right, 1st down and 10 at the Vegas 4 for Geno Smith. It might turn into another safety before it's over, but at least this was more entertaining than some of the other primetime games lately. Yeah. What's your guys' record this year? We started off hot, but we've definitely hit a wall, the Blazers. I'm gonna look you guys up right now. I got to look at the updated NBA standings. Pistons 12-2 with Cade Cunningham. That's wild. After the Pistons were so shitty for years and years and years, finally that youth movement is starting to come in the Eastern Conference. Then Cavs, Raptors, Hawks, Knicks, Sixers, Heat in the 7 spot. Not bad. Milwaukee in 8. And then you got the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Spurs, the T-Wolves, the Warriors, the Suns, and then the Blazers on the outside looking in. So we just got to be able to start grinding out some of these victories so that way we're not the 9 or the 10 seed. We can at least get the 8 seed. That's the goal for, Blazer Mania and Rip City. Try to get the 8 seed, and again, the West is incredibly deep. The highest that we probably could get to is maybe the 6, but a lot would have to happen with injuries to other players in the West for us to climb that high. And again, it's all about consistency. Consistency is king, and I like our team. Drew Holiday, Shaden Sharp, Denny Odby as an all-star this year, Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan. But it feels like, we don't really get the calls down low. But hopefully, we will this week. So, 1st down and 10 at the Vegas 4 with 3:56 left in the 4th quarter. Seven and 6. Well, good luck to the Heat. Hopefully you guys make the playoffs this year and they keep, being fun for you to watch, day in and day out while you're waiting for the Chiefs to play. Got to have something good, in 2025. 4-yard pass there from Geno to Brock Bowers. Carson and James with the coverage and tackle. 3rd down and 1 at the Vegas 14. So I guess we're not going to get back-to-back safeties by the Raiders. But will the Raiders get to 20? That is a big question. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get all the way down. 90 yards to go, but we will find out. Shotgun set. And pass incomplete. Now it's 4th down and 1 at the Vegas 14. Yeah, Blazers have been on a little bit of a losing streak as well. Games that we're great usually in the first 3 quarters, but the 4th quarter sometimes ends up being that challenging, quarter, whether it's fatigue or the other team gets hot. But we've had some pretty good wins. We beat the Thunder when they were undefeated and the number 1 team in the NBA. We've beaten the Nuggets when we were down by 10 the whole game. So it's like we can win against really good teams. It's just, can we play, the bad teams and beat them? We'll see. And teams that obviously that are a little bit better than us as well. And Geno Smith sacked. Loss of 6? No, loss of 8. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And now it's 1st and goal at the Vegas 6, 33-16 Cowboys. But that'll be what's on schedule for the next week. Blazers and Suns, Blazers and Bulls, Texans and Bills for Thursday night, Blazers and Warriors on Friday. Saturday will be USC and Oregon, both ranked in the top 25. Should be a good one. Only 2 regular season games left in college football. And then Sunday will be the Buccaneers and the Rams. And I'm looking forward to the Panthers and Niners on Monday night. That's kind of a sexy matchup. It's not like everyone's going to be super excited for that, but I think, Niners have played pretty well considering all their injuries, like the Buccaneers, and the Panthers are great, have played great football in 2025, and they will have a chance to win against San Francisco. Bryce Young has, played pretty well, so just wish we weren't going against Matthew Stafford, who's got like 22 touchdowns and no picks in the last 7 games. He is the MVP right now. I mean, besides, Jonathan Taylor. Defensive too many men on the field for the Raiders. But again, anytime you end up having 27 touchdowns and 2 picks and you're an old man, with a bad back and Stafford, it shows you how really good the Rams are. It could be a Rams-Broncos Super Bowl this year based on those defenses and offenses. That kind of sounds weird to say. Broncos, Rams, but, it could happen. Prescott kneels. And now we're down to the 2-minute warning. Yeah, I feel like, the games were more exciting. And like I said this earlier in the stream, Chief, I feel like the games were more competitive, higher scoring, and more exciting in the first 2 months. And in the last month and a half, the primetime games haven't lived up to the billing, and they've chose like the wrong games to showcase, even though they made these selections months in advance before the season started. But, it just feels like we're in a weird kind of moment, like obviously the Broncos and the Colts and the Patriots are balling out, same thing with the Eagles and the Rams, but I don't know. It just kind of feels like we're in a weird point in the season, and hopefully the NFL, will finish strong, here in the last, month and a half as we go into the playoffs, and where we have some, a little bit more competitive matchups and whatnot. But defenses have been pretty good, but again, who wants to watch a 10-7 game? Nobody, even me. I love defense, but I don't want to watch 10-7, 9-6, 6-3. It's like, I want to see great defense, but I also want to see points scored, Yeah, crazy Thanksgiving next Thursday. My favorite holiday of the year. Family, food, football, friends. And we will be streaming on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. We got Packers, Lions in the morning, Chiefs, Cowboys in the afternoon, and then Bengals, Ravens on Thanksgiving night. And that'll be the one that I do because I just won't be home in time for Chiefs, Cowboys. But you never know. Maybe Joe Flacco will bring a little bit of magic, and you would assume that Lamar will be Lamar, but that could actually be kind of a sleeper game. I love Thanksgiving. I love turkey. I love mashed potatoes and gravy. I love the rolls. I love the pie, pumpkin, apple, cherry, whatever. I love stuffing. I love leftovers. I can't wait. May not be the most healthiest food for you, but I love it. And then on Christmas, it's Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, Vikings, and then Broncos, Chiefs. And then obviously Christmas, that's what we'll be doing, Broncos, Chiefs. So looking forward to that. That's going to be really exciting to cap off your Christmas night. Seeing if the Chiefs can get a little bit of payback after losing this previous weekend. Obviously, we know how good the Broncos have been, and we'll see how that goes. At least Kansas City will be at home for that one. And another kneel down. And nothing wrong with being Mr. Bean. Yeah, time is flying, man. I mean, it feels like all I do is work and walk my dog every day, but, you know, if you got dreams and goals, you got to grind. And Prescott kneels again. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. And again, I will be doing Blazers and Suns tomorrow at 8 o'clock Pacific. Then Blazers Bulls a little bit earlier on Wednesday. Thursday night football will be Texans and Bills. Blazers and Warriors Friday night. Saturday, USC and Oregon, both ranked. And then Buccaneers and Rams on Sunday night football. Very excited about that. That will be a good game. And then obviously Monday night, Panthers and Niners. I think that will be a good game as well. Even better than this one. You know, definitely, you know, sometimes you have these matchups that we, you know, anticipate. Seahawks, Rams, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles, Lions. And on paper, it sounded great. But the only good game out of those, three, you could be debatable. And then obviously the, Buccaneers and the Bills was probably the best out of the four. So even though we lost. And Geno kneels. Yeah. Just got to take it one day at a time. Just like everything in life. One day at a time. You know, but we always are happy to have you a part of this community. That's what we do. And that's the final kneel down there by Geno. And again, even though this turned into a little bit of a blowout, it's at least, we had points scored, compared to what we saw with the Eagles and Lions. To me, that was a disappointment. So, nice to be able to see a little bit, out of the Raiders, not enough, to make you satisfied, to make it a little bit closer. But obviously Dak is Dak. And again, the Cowboys are playing like a team like they're 5-4, even though they're not. And, the Raiders obviously go to 2-8. Cowboys improved to 4-5-1, but there definitely is a big difference between both. So I love you guys and I appreciate you guys very, very much. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. It's always fun to be able to, hang out for a few hours and just call a game and see what you guys are up to in your daily lives. Again, tomorrow will be a late stream, 8 o'clock Pacific, Blazers and the Phoenix Suns. Appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys and hanging out for a little bit. Love you guys and I appreciate you guys very, very much. Final score, Cowboys 33, Raiders 16. We damn boys with the big victory. And I got one question for you. Who talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Okay.